BMW iX3 versus Mercedes GLC electric versus Volvo EX60 versus Audi Q6. The hot picks at this moment in the premium midsize EV SUV segment. We are showing you all of these cars in depth with our reviews, find out about the pros and cons of each model, and later give advice in an extensive conclusion. For the iX3 and the GLC, we also have a direct head-to-head preliminary conclusion after the two first parts. And we will also take a look at the recently presented BMW iX5, the bigger brother of the iX3, because yes, it is in the different segment, but it gets the luxury features that are missing with the iX3 and thus making it more comparable to the Mercedes GLC electric again, so that the GLC EV is somewhat in a feature and price sandwich between iX3 and iX5. This comparison is also very interesting for us personally, because we are also thinking about our next personal vehicle. That might be all electric then, and then we're also thinking about exactly these plus the BMW iX5, so about these 5 SUVs in general. So it's also for us very important and super interesting to go through the individual details, pros and cons of all of these vehicles. Let's go for now and start with the BMW iX3. Let's go. Today it's road trip time with the BMW iX3 and very important questions of: could this really be our next vehicle? Is it also suitable for our needs, even long term? And we will drive this one way, 550 kilometers, 340 miles from the west part of Germany to the capital, to Berlin. One way, like a combustion engine. So we're driving this electric SUV, just don't caring if it's electric or not. As for the speed, also really drive very fast, left lane and so on. Then do a charging test. Does it work very well as well? And on the way back, actually, we go the other approach, drive more efficient and see if we can maybe even score that length, that long road trip without charging. So very interesting things here today, and also the iX3 here in the base version. So really close to that 70,000 euros entry-level version with the big battery here already, but no M Sport and hardly any extra equipment. And very important, the smallest wheels for the best efficiency. So very interesting things here coming up right now, and also drawing comparisons to the existing BMW X3 plug-in hybrid we're driving. How are the differences there? Then also the main competitors here, the Mercedes GLC EQ, which I've recently driven, now can also draw better comparisons, and also the Volvo EX60, because these other two, we are also thinking about moving to these two. So at this moment, we are totally open, also gathering some offerings from the dealers, and see how the BMW iX3 scores in the long-term real-world test here today, as for the concise range and what's good and what is maybe not so good with this vehicle. We also focus on these things that are maybe missing with the iX3 here today. So tune in now to Autogefuehl with Thomas in 4K, full screen, full length, and of course also with Leah, especially on the long-term Autobahn trip. Let's go. And here the iX3 has no M Sport package. So that means you don't have high gloss black here in the front. So this is then here the normal black plastic, so to speak. It's not that obvious because this is also the sapphire black color. So if you would have a white color, for example, it would become even more obvious that you don't have the M Sport package, but here it's, so to speak, less contrast. I think when you have the black color, it doesn't make the biggest difference actually. Then here the iconic glow, the illuminated double kidney, this option is spec'd with this vehicle. But really, this vehicle has like 3 or 4 options, and that's basically it. And here, so important for today's test, these are the 20-inch wheels, the base wheels, and with 255 millimeters wide tires. So these are also the small tires. So the front is always 255 and 20-inch. But the logic here with the iX3 is if you go for 21-inch wheels, you can have the same width, or already the 275 in the rear. But these here are also the 255 in the rear. And then the 22-inch wheels would always be 275 in the rear. So last time we had the 22-inch wheels and scored some 20 kilowatt hours or 3.1 miles per kilowatt hour at 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, and then 25 kilowatt hours at 130 kilometers an hour. So I'm really looking forward to today's test. How much less consumption can we score with these smaller tires? And will they actually enable us to do this 550 kilometers or 340 miles trip really, like driving normal speeds, but without charging? And then, as I said, the first way, really hammering it through on the German Autobahn, really driving fast, and then maybe put one charging test. And also, which trip is faster? Is it faster when we go really, really fast? Then charge, go fast again? Or is it actually the same time, or maybe faster or slower when we drive a little bit more efficient but don't charge? So we'll all find out more about that. Then here in the rear, the light signature. This is actually pretty cool. I like it. By the way, here, this is the full rear signature, and the top part after a while somehow dissolves for, I don't know, energy savings or something. However, the turning indicator, I think, is really, really tiny. Too tiny for such a car. And then again, if you don't have M Sport package, you have here the normal plastic elements in the lower part. And this is also high gloss black here. But with the M Sport, again, you would have this diffuser style and much more high gloss black. Honestly, I have to say, this vehicle works very well. Also in the base trim, you do not necessarily need the M Sport. And charging flap is here on the passenger side, in the rear. And on paper, it does 21 minutes, 10 to 80% state of charge, 400 kilowatt DC peak. It's an electric charging flap of this 108.7 kilowatt hour battery. And now, most recent news, BMW has now released the figures of the rear-wheel drive entry-level model with the smaller battery. So the smaller battery is 82.6 kilowatt hours, also recharges from 10 to 80% in 21 minutes. Maximum 300 kilowatt peak. WLTP figure is 635 kilometers, so that's on the official paper like 170 kilometers less. However, it will also probably be a little bit more efficient since it only has this one electric motor in the rear. And the acceleration figure of the iX3 40, as it's called, 320 horsepower, is 5.9 seconds. So it's actually only 1 second slower in the acceleration figure in comparison to the all-wheel drive model you see here, the iX3 50 xDrive. Gotta say though, at an entry price, for example here the German one of 36,000 euros 400, that's only about 5,500 euros less expensive than the bigger battery. And for that price, especially when you then maybe have the leasing rate difference, it's probably not worth it not to go for the big battery. Quick look in the trunk already, or the boot. The full measurements you can check out in the other reviews we have, like we have three other videos meanwhile. Here I just want to show you our travel setup. When we push here the cabin trolleys and the backpack all the way to the back, see here how much fits in the trunk, like in a realistic way. And then there's still space in the front, and here underneath we have still put some like bigger jackets, like warm jackets in case we need them. So you see, even for a family of 4, this will be enough luggage already. And as said, the full measurements and so on, how we can store the trunk cover, in our other reviews. Quickly take a look on the interior here, on this spec here today, and then we'll go to the German Autobahn. Classic key fob, or just use your phone with the app, open, close, climate features, remote, and so on. And you can see here in...
And quickly, new German lesson, alles okay.
Alles okay, everything all right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all right, yeah, like E17. And then here, these door handles here come towards you when you open the vehicle. They're also illuminated, by the way. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of it. We had this topic for a very long time already, and in China they will already offer a new solution because they will forbid this solution. Then here, door closing sound. That's fine. Yeah, it's strange that we had some vehicles where it wasn't that good, but with this one, it's actually pretty good. So, and then here inside, this is the red interior. You don't have to go for it one. Different styles are available, but here already soft touch in the doors and so on. And it's better interior build quality than the BMW X3, for example, and classic controls here of the window levers. And here, this is the electric one, but also the manual release in case. Not covered here at the inside of the door. So I would wish for some fabric here, definitely. That is missing. Then the entry sill badge right there. And once again, the red interior and the steering wheel. This is base steering wheel. We haven't seen this one. Vertical spoke. Not everyone is a fan of it. This one without the perforation, but these are great. Here, like, you can grab in like this. That makes so much fun while driving. And then illuminated buttons, for example, to activate the automated parking and so on. Option, you can get the sport steering wheel, then here with perforation and a little bit thicker vertical spokes. And optional, you can also get the spokes here with the M Sport steering wheel, also with perforation. The latter one we would probably pick them because it looks most normal. Great material, it's an animal-free material, highest quality, and also for the seats. It's super soft, super plush, and very comfortable. Here also for the sit bone area, and you can get these in white, in black, and so on. These are the comfort seats. Optional, the sport seats with this integrated head restraint style. And the sport seats are more comfortable in the shoulder area. However, these here, the comfort seats, are more comfortable in the sit bone area. These here are also more comfortable than the X3 seats we currently have, gotta say that. And as a base version in Europe, you could also get the fabric seats, which is also a good idea. They look cool, and at this moment, they do not offer seat ventilation for the iX3 yet. They are working on it. It will not come with the next facelift or something. It will come with a model year change, but we don't know exactly yet which model year it will be. My estimation would be maybe someone in 2027. That would be my estimation when it happens. We'll keep you updated with that because at this moment we also think, hey, why should you switch from an X3 plug-in hybrid where we have seat ventilation to an iX3 where we don't have that? You know, doesn't make sense. But the demand already showed them that they have to retrofit this then very, very soon. And yeah, I really have to say, in comfort, the seats, class our segment leading because better than the X3 combustion engine. They are also more comfortable than the ones in the GLC EQ. Also more comfortable, so because the sit bone area is more plush and it's also the softer material than in the GLC EQ, and also compared to the Volvo EX60. Doesn't mean the other ones are bad, but this one, you know, sets the barrier even a little bit higher. So that's pretty cool. But we also do have some features where the GLC and the Volvo are leading here the iX3. Because, for example, the GLC EQ and the Volvo EX60, again, depending on the trim, the EX60 only in the cross-country version that comes later, they offer air suspension as an option, whereas that's not available here in the iX3. We are waiting the adaptive suspension at a later stage. However, the base suspension here is also very good, but it doesn't deliver you like this very soft driving comfort what you would have with the GLC EQ with the air suspension or the EX60 cross country when you can order it. The ordering times, you know, are very, very long for the EX60, even longer than here for the iX3 at this moment, because there's also been like such a high demand for this car. And also the Mercedes and the Volvo sound systems are better. Mercedes has the Burmester optionally, and the Volvo has the optional Bowers & Wilkins sound system, and they are indeed better than even the optional Harman Kardon sound system we have here in the BMW iX3. So you see, all these vehicles have their distinct features. Yeah, GLC EQ also has rear axle steering as an option. That is such a helpful feature. However, we're going to say here in the iX3, better to maneuver than the X3 plug-in hybrid because the wheels turn in more, so you can easier ease this vehicle around tight areas than the X3 plug-in hybrid. Also a very interesting finding. From the cockpit layout, Mercedes, Volvo, BMW, all very different, but I think the good approach here is that this panoramic vision, which is on the one hand futuristic, but it gives you the long focus for the digital instruments. This one is also not equipped with a head-up display. You could optionally get one, but it looks actually cleaner, and because it's far away, I don't actually need a head-up display. Leah just said, I would still like one. She could still get one if she wants, no problem. And it's also in the package together with the Harman Kardon sound system, so then we would anyway get this one, you know. Yeah, and then here the infotainment system moves closer to you. That makes it easy to change the temperature, even though it's sadly not physical. It's easy to reach, you know, close to the steering wheel. Whereas with the Mercedes, everything is like together in this area. So you have close focus to the digital instruments, and the infotainment unit to change something is also far away then. It's interesting. And Volvo again is something in between, so to speak, you know. So very interesting, these different approaches. And here definitely the build quality is better in comparison to the BMW iX3 combustion engine. Also here everything is covered and so on. We have fabric insets here. In the i3, the sedan, you will get the leatherette covers here, except in the M Sport trim, but then in the M Sport trim you can optionally go back again to the leatherette cover. I also talked to the project leader of the Neue Klasse and said that you guys gave the feedback, hey, you also want some leatherette insert for the iX3, and he said that, yeah, it's a good point. They'll note that down, and maybe this will also then change for some model year update or a facelift or something, that you can then also get the leatherette surface. It looks nice, it's also cool, but some customer wishes are of course a little bit different. Headroom here with 189, 602, no problem. And then here it's also soft for your elbow, some space underneath, but not too much actually. And in the front, inductive charging left side, cables are on the right side. For me, really the best things about this one is I think I like the cockpit layout, like the logic, and the best seating comfort. And then, as I said, the Mercedes has the advantage that it has like most features, like with air suspension, rear axle steering. That one already offers the seat cooling, but not for all seats. For example, if you pick the microfiber or the fabric seats, it's not available, just like if you go for the Article leatherette. And the Volvo, also pretty cool with the different battery choices, also large battery available, whereas the Mercedes has the smaller battery, the smallest of these three actually, if you compare the biggest batteries each. So you see, it's getting really tough, but these three, I really like this trio, you know. So we'll also check out the offerings from the dealers, what leasing rate they can give us, and then also decide probably about the three. Unless there might be from some of these three manufacturers a bigger vehicle coming up. But which is secret so far. Guess in the comments. We are not allowed to talk about this yet. But there might be something else coming up, and we'll keep you updated with that as soon as possible. Quickly just step into the rear. I think Leah has already prepared some drinks and some food for us, so we'll get this one on the front seat. So quickly to the rear, that you can see how much space we have here. There we go. And there's a lot of space here, although I'm driving, and it's also better if you compare to the X3 plug-in hybrid version, for example, we have. And from the feet also not, you know, they're not too high, because it's a much of an electric SUV, and headroom also no problem, and it's also very comfortable here in the rear. And now we want to hit the road, and here from the western part of Germany to Berlin, it shows actually for these 550 kilometers or 340 miles, the car wants to do one charging stop here. So let's say after like 1/3 of the road for 8 minutes only. And then we're supposed to reach our destination with 10% here at the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin. So yeah, very interesting. This is the first approach what the car is suggesting. Doesn't mean that you have to do it, but you could. And here, let's see how easy is this automatic parking feature. I just pressed once here on the left side of the steering wheel, and then I can switch it here actually between the different parking slots here. Let's maybe this or maybe this, and then just like this, release the brake. And to me, I honestly gotta say, before I have rather not used these features because they were maybe sometimes too complicated to activate, and it was sometimes too extreme, this experience. Like maybe it was quick, but you were shaking around. But here, the cool thing is it's easy to activate, and it is so smooth. So the car actually parks smoother than you would do that yourself automatically, and it's quick, but it's not too fast. So
the stop is great.
It's great. Yeah, also the smooth stop. So I think it's the calibration what makes it so good. And as I said, it's easy to activate, and it's quicker than you would probably do it yourself, but not too quick that you feel like, you know, you're getting sick from, for example, the Tesla system also works great, but it's sometimes so wild and shaking you around. But this one is exactly the calibration we need, and that makes it so attractive that you can also like want to use it. And very important now, here personal assistant, then routines, and then begin of the journey. You can set the EU speed chime warning to off, that it always, is off. You have to confirm it soon. I'm going to show you. Or for example, that seat heating is, or steering wheel heating is on when you start the vehicle. So you can do that, even on different levels. And how does it work? So when I just start the vehicle basically, and then when I just hit the brake there in the front, in the panoramic vision, there we go. The routine says, so just activate it, yes or no. Then you have to confirm with OK, and OK is in the middle of this crosshair. Thank you, Leah, and that's it. And the alternative would be here, pressing this button. So that would be the alternative to deactivate it. Now we start the driving and...
Ooh, road trip time!
Yeah, road trip time! A little bit of city traffic and so on. And before we go to the motorway actually, and I mean, it's not a too large vehicle. It still fits in here in the traffic and it's super smooth. The thing is that suspension-wise, yes.
It's a little bit rough and sporty. Yeah.
Still a bit sporty and rough. In comparison, for example, GLC EQ, where you could get the air suspension, that's more like a floaty ride. It drives better in that way.
But 20-inch wheels, pick that one. Yeah.
Definitely.
Definitely, it's better. Yeah.
Yeah, because last time we had 22-inch on the iX3, and here with the 20-inch, it drives way better.
Yeah.
More smooth, more comfort from the wheels. Then because here we have the standard suspension, the adaptive suspension available later, and also if we compare the X3 plug-in hybrid, we have the adaptive suspension and 19-inch wheels. This one is still a little bit rougher with 20-inch wheels and standard suspension. But this one still drives much better than the X3 combustion engine.
Yeah. You feel one with the vehicle. Yeah, that's a feeling that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like here the steering wheel.
Yeah,
you have good,
and how
good
you
grip
can
on,
grab it. That's really nice. Yeah.
And something like the acceleration and the stopping process is so extremely smooth. Everything flows, kinda, and you, as Dia said, you feel one with the vehicle. With a lot of other vehicles, like you do something and then you lag behind with your body, basically. But here, it's like, I do this and the car and the body does the same movement at the very same second. And you feel it both as a driver and also as a passenger. That's really amazing. And also here, this very elaborated assistance systems. We are in the construction site here now, so let's see what the car does. It also stops automatically at the red traffic light, by the way. You're still responsible, but it does do that. And also in a very smooth and elaborated way. And soon when we drive a little bit faster, then we can also do this hands-off feature that, the car is taking over. Basically, you're still responsible, but you can take your hands off the steering wheel, And here, in this construction site, super smooth here also. I'm basically doing nothing at this moment.
And I don't feel scared or something.
Yeah,
I feel safe now. Yeah.
It's crazy
and
how
sometimes you feel very unsafe when some vehicles are shaky then, and
Now the speed is being recognized, like the increased speed, automatically adjusts the speed. Yeah, we had sometimes situations that when you have like the adaptive cruise control, the car accelerates too hard, it brakes too hard.
I was like, Thomas,
She was always saying, cancel that, please drive yourself.
Yeah.
But you would say like, let the car drive?
Yeah, really, yeah.
Okay, then I'm gone. Yeah, that's really something, that this vehicle really reaches the skill level of
a human.
Of good drivers.
Yes.
And even goes beyond that sometimes, in the smoothness process. And this is really something extraordinary.
I do miss a little bit the air suspension from the GLC. I miss it.
Yeah.
I'm honest with you. I miss it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really the thing. If you look at that, also like fast corner with 80 and super smooth. So if you say like, hey, what else do we wish for this car? Yeah, this the seat ventilation, which is hopefully coming soon. A better sound system like the Burmester in the Mercedes, and the air suspension. That would be really cool. And rear axle steering, that would be also nice. But then again, the iX3 has something that the GLC EQ doesn't have. Like better seating comfort and this more feeling unified with the vehicle. The bigger battery.
Systems maybe here.
assistance
They're
systems are the
better,
best.
yeah.
Are the best, without doubt. At the moment, industry leading. Yeah, that's really. I mean, they're all good, also in the Mercedes, right? But this one even goes a step beyond that, and we can soon also show you like the next step beyond that. But I mean, this is here like the traffic situation with this construction side, something where you rather don't feel so much at home in a vehicle, but here we are
And
like
it's
super
sometimes
relaxed.
really stressful here for me.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But we are feeling really relaxed,
Yeah.
now, you know. And I just let the car do its thing, and it's doing that in a so sophisticated way, and we can just say, okay, this is not fun to drive.
Yeah, we
here.
can
Well,
sleep
just do it.
both. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's see here now, speed. Yeah, it's picking up instantly. Now I can also accelerate above that. And yeah, usually like when there's like this construction side thing, then some assistance systems drop out and say like, I won't do that in that way.
Yeah.
Wow. And
Cool.
at 100, like here at 80, 90, it's still very silent.
Yeah,
You know?
even in the city,
Yeah.
that's very, very silent. Yeah.
Some booming noises,
You need to.
maybe.
Oh,
I think you have to. Let's see if the car is doing a lane change for me.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. Yeah, I did
We are only in
yeah.
2026.
Yeah.
But the future is.
The future is here. The future is here. Yeah, I did that here with the indicator right now. When you are in this top.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, dropped out. See, you know, that can also happen. So don't trust it 100%.
Yeah.
But not sure why I did that now. Maybe because the lines
of
were.
the lines and maybe the exit.
Maybe it was
It
also
was not
saying.
sure because of. Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, but that's why we're here to test. So you have these moments where you're like, wow, this is like super well done. But you see, there can also be some moments which are still irritating. So you always have to be on your toes, you know, that you can still take it over yourself in case you need to. So yeah, but definitely good to know. And we'll soon now, when we drive a little bit faster, also start our first efficiency tests.
Yes.
These are perfect conditions for EV today. It's not too cold,
Sunny and
not too
what
hot.
is it? 50 or 60? Oh, 80
degrees. That's perfect
Yeah.
for the battery. It's
Yeah.
really perfect, you know, and dry road and everything. And these 20-inch wheels. So we can really recommend these 20-inch wheels. If you go for iX3, get them for the best comfort, especially when the adaptive suspension is not yet available. So that's definitely a clever thing to do. And yeah, acceleration is also fine. Yes, it's not the quickest one. The GLC EQ is faster there.
It's enough, yeah.
It's fine, you know,
Yeah.
4.9 seconds. Oh, now it says like the Autobahn Assistent is
Verfügbar.
available. Jawohl. Listen and repeat. Der Autobahn Assistent. So this is the Autobahn or motorway assistant. And that means now I can do this.
When you see these
Take off yeah.
green lines here, then
Exactly.
you can take off the hands.
Leah,
from the
meanwhile,
steering
knows
wheel.
more about cars than I do. Confirm. So, and now we can basically go drive to Berlin without me intervening, hopefully. And yeah,
We've
that's
tested, yeah.
super impressive, super impressive.
And I'm really excited for charging as well. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Let's see also then soon what we can do, like 10 to 80% state of charge. I will not take like exactly what suggested before, because we really want to show you like how quick is the charging. And let's see here, yeah, as soon as there's like freeway, then the car is also suggesting me I could look into the mirror to change the lane. But this is of course something where the assistance system is a little bit more careful than we would maybe be.
Yeah.
So we
But
could
it's
say,
a good thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the car has to be really sure about this, you know. So because we say, there's like a gap, and like on the throttle, and I'm in there, you know. The assistance system is saying like, I'm a little bit more careful, you know. And maybe now that car is too close still, I think. So there's like a certain minimum distance that it has to have. Now after this yellow Astra is gone. Now, yeah. Okay, now it's suggested I'm looking into the side mirror. And now the car did the lane. It's like magic, right? It's like
Cool. Yeah.
and it's like the adaptation is really so nicely done. It's super smooth. So yeah, kudos to that.
Yes.
And
Now I'm enjoying my matcha latte
oh yeah, she brought some, you know, for the road trip here.
and enjoy the drive.
Some
Yeah.
self-made matcha. And this is really you can enjoy being driven in this vehicle.
Yes.
Really, that's
Yeah.
really a thing. So yeah, driving wise, I think the only thing I'm missing is air suspension and
maybe the rear axle
steering for narrow situations and
for the parking garage. Then, but here the turning from the wheels is also good.
Yeah, like not the inclination, like how the wheels turn in is really wide. It's better than in the X3.
Yeah, I think we filmed that, right?
Yeah, we filmed that. Oh, yeah, indeed. Yeah. And I mean, here now at 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, noise insulation is also fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm looking forward to how it is like at higher speeds because there is no lamination in the windows, not available here for this one. So let's see how that one scores at a later stage. But here now 120, still fine. I would even say it's more silent than the X3 plug-in hybrid we have.
Yeah. And it's fine.
I mean, the GLC EQ had the lamination, but I talked about that in the driving part. I didn't find it. I mean, I found it extremely silent up to 100, and then on higher motorway speeds, not so extremely silent as expected. So that I think we have to test it head to head again. Yeah, Leah wasn't there. Jonas was joining me on that one. So I think that we have to test again head to head. But so far, let's say at normal, non-extreme German motorway speeds, it's fine with the insulation. You know, 130 kilometers an hour.
2 yellow vehicles.
Oh, yellow A3 sedan and yellow Opel Astra or Vauxhall Astra. Interesting. But I like the Astra color more. It's more golden. More golden, right? Let's see.
You're
like
so golden.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, we have some Leah singing lessons here as well.
And now we need to stop before the car needs to charge because...
Yeah, someone needs to wee. Yeah, but that's the thing, you know, so the car wouldn't need to stop, but we do. And now it's time for the sport mode. Sport dynamic, and from 100, let's see, let's go.
Woo.
Nice. 170, 180 kilometers an hour. Wow, good acceleration, and the car feels so stable actually. That's yeah, that truck didn't feel that stable though. Gotta say that. And then let's see about the wind noise, where it's still fine.
I think 130, 120.
Yeah, I think 140 is also fine still.
Yeah.
So like 80, 90 miles an hour, but above that then it gets low. But I think for most situations that's fine. Yeah, at 150 then the wind noise picks up.
But also fine, it's not that loud.
That's fine, yeah. Do you also see the front hood is shaking a little bit at these high speeds?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's about the thin metal there.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm not sure if it's like a visual illusion, but I think maybe something. Need to investigate that actually. But besides that, if you don't look at that, the car is really, really stable. Extremely stable. Like from the chassis and so on. And so you can easily, I mean, it feels extremely safe also here when I'm doing a lane change and 160 kilometers an hour.
Wow, yeah.
Wow. I mean,
it's cool, yeah.
It brings you so much calmness even at higher speeds. That's
and now
really
the steering wheel is
crazy.
cool, right? With the
that's
here inside.
Great control over it. And and Leah also is super relaxed here.
Yeah.
Even at the higher speeds, that's good. And now here,
braking.
Smooth on the brakes. I mean, this is still recuperation then, right? So in most situations, you don't need the friction brakes. And also here again, I was at really high speed. Then I need to decelerate quite a lot. But that still wasn't applying stress on the body, you know? And so, yes, there's a big battery in here, but you don't feel the extra weight from the battery at all.
It's not that usual...
It's not the heavy electric car feeling.
Yeah, right, yeah.
That's crazy. So it handled so well. It feels so nice and so calm. Yeah, maybe a little bit calm at very high speeds.
Could be,
That could be something, you know, when it's on our wish list.
Yeah.
And since you don't have the air suspension, you don't have the floaty ride. But then again, this rather little bit stiffer ride is, of course, driving fun.
And for agile driving, it's also good.
Yeah. And it gives you a lot of...
And for my stomach as well.
Yeah, that's the thing, you know. Yeah. I mean, yes, it doesn't shake, you know, it doesn't do the waves then. But then again, you're being kept, you know, in the vehicle and also at higher speeds. You're still totally one with the car.
Yeah.
All right, first charging stop. And
Car brings us to.
yeah. So putting a BMW now at the Mercedes charger. Why did we stop here? Well, we are at 15% of the battery now, SOC. But this was the closest charger now with 400 kilowatt. And this is very important. So there we go. Because this one can do 400 kilowatt. The car was also suggesting us one with 300 kilowatt, which would have also perfectly worked, you know, but we want to show you, of course, like what's the maximum stuff the car is capable of. We have put also this charging station in the GPS. I mean, we have been driving the motorway, the Autobahn now for a couple of hours, but still there's then the additional preconditioning. And let's now see like how fast we can charge, like 15 to 80%. And here,
Wow.
just directly jumps to 399 kilowatt. I mean, we plugged in at 15% and just, you know, we were recording the German version also, and then it just hops on so quickly. Wow, 401. That's crazy, crazy. And we will also take a look now here at the Ladedauer. That's like the time. And then, oh, it says even prediction here, 19 minutes to 8. This is the current prediction. So let's see about that. So we have to go here again that we don't lose this statistics. Wow, that's a great result already. And if it's getting cold, it's getting a little bit chilly, you know, you could just get in the car, you know.
You could, but
But you can also be outside and
there's a heater here.
use this here as an outside heater. So if you want to enjoy like the view here, evening light or something, and want to stay outside, you can just stay here, and then it's really like an outside heater in a restaurant or something like that. You know, it's like, yeah, that's pretty cool, right? You know, watching the charging curve. So here we had our peak, you know, 400 kilowatt peak. Now we've dropped a little bit towards 300 still. I mean, that's still pretty cool. So if you go back here at 43% and still over 300, there we go. So over 300 kilowatt at 44%. So yes, you cannot hold the peak all the time, but this is already pretty cool. And maybe even more impressive, look at that. In here, 6 minutes, soon 7 minutes, we have charged, there we go. Yeah, it always jumps back. So in about 7 minutes, we have charged 38 kilowatt hours in 7 minutes. And here, next important info, at 65%, it's still remaining over 200 kilowatt. And here, in about, yeah, it's always the same, that it switches in that moment. So 12 minutes, we have charged 58 kilowatt hours. So in 12 minutes, 15 to 66%. Now it dropped below 200 just, but that's really impressive. And here, look at the so far average, 280 kilowatt average so far. And I mean, we're almost at 70%, and this is the average charging here at 280 kilowatt. That is crazy. I think Leah is hiding something. Okay, back there. Yeah, yeah. It's still funny, you know, to have this, you know, Mercedes charging station in the BMW. Yeah. Maybe we should go with the GLC EQ then to a BMW charging station.
Yeah, maybe.
Are there dedicated BMW charging stations actually? I mean, they are working with the Ionity network, right? But I think they don't do it, right?
No.
I haven't seen some. Yeah, interesting.
I think so, yeah.
But like one another interesting point is here that we could have easily just recharged like 5, 6, 7 minutes, and that would have already been more than enough to reach our destination. So this would easily just be a fuel stop.
Doesn't matter if you charge at 10% or 20%.
Yeah, that too. You know, if we would start at 10 or 15 or 20, that doesn't matter, because when you directly reach this 400 kilowatt peak at such a station here, there's a matter of seconds. And it's really that we don't need to do 10 to 80% because, you know, like a fuel stop time would have been enough. So you can really say that with this charging speed here, this is like driving a petrol car also on a long journey, if you have such a good charging station. I gotta say that. And now we're closing into the 80%. Now It has dropped. It's still above 100 kilowatt, but yeah, almost there. So let's see here. This is the charging curve. There we go. So there it kept dropping, but it's still like on a very high level. Average is still 250 almost. And yeah, so basically we almost made it. So like 15 or 16 to 80%. Let's go back again. So in about 18 minutes. That is pretty good result, and we could have been even quicker, as I said, if we canceled like at 60% or so, and for most destinations it would have been enough. There we go. Looks always very cool, right, with the animation in front. Reached our destination, and the cool thing is here in this hotel basement garage we can then directly charge again, and we can start like when going back directly with 100%. And the good thing is here, even if the luggage would be still in the back, here, easy to access the front then. There's the charging cable underneath, and you have to release it from the inside though, like the top hood. So there's no like easy mechanism like with the competitors. So now we just had a nice breakfast in our favorite hotel here in Berlin, and they also have this nice yacht here. Almost looks like I'm in the jungle. How did we drive to Berlin now? We basically had no upper limit. So sometimes we were also driving like 160, 170 kilometers an hour. Not for a very long time, because usually that's hardly possible in Germany when you drive during the day. So unlimited Autobahn speed is often possible when there's hardly any traffic and when you have the Autobahn routes which are not, you know, in heavy traffic at all, you know. But between Berlin and West Germany, there are some minor parts, but you cannot drive it like for hours and hours and hours all the time. But we did not limit ourselves, so we drove quite quickly overall. Total amount of today, because the car first came to us in the morning, over 800 kilometers only on this day, over 500 miles and 173 kilowatt hours used. And the total average then is here about 21 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers, so like 3 miles per kilowatt hour. But we started with these consumption tests that we can also give you an insight on that. And the interesting thing here was now, last time we had 22-inch wheels and it was a little bit colder. Now it was a little bit warmer. It's still, I mean, the sun is right out now. Yes, it's sunny, but it's still cold, you know, so but it's not that warm. But still, you know, the difference then between cold and high temperature or higher temperatures with the electric vehicles is sometimes people forget that the air is more dense in winter times and in summertime it's less dense. And this air density also leads to a high consumption and of course heating the battery and heating the cabin. So these three factors of course play a major role. But here it's also a big point that we had the 20-inch aero wheels. And overall then the consumption difference was huge, and that was really surprising to me. So last time we had at 100 kilometers an hour 20 kilowatt hours consumption with the 22, and at 130 kilometers an hour 25 kilowatt hours. This time we had 16 and 22. So we had 4 kilowatt hours less in the first case and 3 kilowatt hours less per 100 kilometers in the second case. So here with the 20-inch wheels at 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, 16 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. That's extremely efficient. That's awesome. That would mean at that speed, a real world range is like 3.8 miles per kilowatt hour, the consumption, real world range of 680 kilometers or 425 miles at 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour. That's really amazing, especially for an SUV. And then at 130 kilometers an hour, 80 miles per hour, we had 22 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometer or 2.8 miles per kilowatt hour. In that case, real world range of about 500 kilometers or over 300 miles at 130 kilometers an hour or 80 miles an hour. That's really cool. So great results. And I have these, like the exact consumption data, and that you can also compare it to the 22-inch wheels. I put it also in the video description and also in the data comment that you can read that. But clearly the message is here. If you buy this vehicle and really want long range, you have to get the 20-inch aero wheels. It makes a huge difference, definitely. And I think you will have more fun driving this car longer than you have fun looking at, maybe the larger wheels look better or something like that, you know. So this is a very crucial finding here today. And yeah, definitely for us is if we buy the iX3 as the next one after our X3 plug-in, we would definitely go with these 20-inch aero wheels because we appreciate that we can just go and go. And that also works at some higher speeds. So yeah, that is really astonishing. So wow, really impressed with that. And based on that now, we can really say we can try to go the way back. Let's say we limit ourselves to maximum 130. That doesn't mean that the average will be 130 because that wouldn't work. But that, in cases where we can drive 130 kilometers an hour, 80 miles an hour, we'll do it. And pretty cool, we can even park and charge directly at the Brandenburg gate. So with the basement garage here for the Adlon Hotel, very famous hotel. We're not in that hotel, it's too expensive. It's also very expensive to park here, but at least you can also charge here, that's good. Unless you have a petrol Ferrari or a petrol Rolls Royce, then you also just block the charging ports here. So yeah, that is a very good example of what not to do.
Yay, we're here!
We made it. There it is, the next gate, the Brandenburg gate, the, listen and repeat, Brandenburger Tor, which means Brandenburg gate. Yeah. That's an easy one, right?
And only with one charging stop.
Only one charging stop, and even that one could have been shorter, actually. So everything, especially because of the assistance systems and so on, was really relaxing, actually. So no problem at all. And we are always happy to be in Berlin. It's a great city. And the thing is, I'm always, because I'm very interested in history, I also studied part-time history. And when I see like the iconic stuff like the Brandenburg Gate here, for me, Berlin is always like a mix of like the worst and the best of Germany.
Yes,
Because also here this gate and many other main sites here really saw the worst and darkest times of German history, but also the brightest times. So behind us you also can see like these. They have like some stones in the ground where the Berlin Wall was actually, and yeah, the gate here was basically in the middle of it. Also divided then these two countries for 28 years, from 1961 to 1989. Well, that was where the wall was dividing. It was divided even longer, but 28
Thomas
years.
is also my history teacher at home.
Yeah, so the wall was for 28 years, and really like families were separated, and the one side living under dictatorship, and that's probably was a really tough time. But at the same time, so from here also like the fate of the world was connected to this city here, and that's what it's making so interesting. And of course, modern things, like great food from all over the world. We always love to visit
lovely people,
different restaurants,
from all
lovely
over
people.
the world. Yes.
And yeah, many tourists come here, of course, from all over the world. And I think the most important thing about the vibe in Berlin is that you can come here no matter like where you're born, where you're from, how you look like, who you love. It doesn't matter, and no one cares. So you're not judged by how you look or what you do. And this is a great thing, actually. There are also bad things like highest car theft rate in Germany.
Oh.
So you better be careful. That's why we're also in that basement garage, for example. This is completely crazy here now. So we are like just walking here, and now
That was
there it is. Yeah, we just passed the wall, actually.
It's crazy.
We just literally walked over the Berlin Wall where it used to be. That's a harsh light. You can hardly see my eyes meanwhile because the sun is like
so bright.
Well, it's 3 o'clock actually, it's quite late already. Yeah, but here of course behind us, the Reichstag, that's the building. And this is where the Bundestag actually resides. The Bundestag is the German parliament. So Reichstag, the name of the building, Bundestag, name of the German parliament. And yeah, you see the glass top there. You can visit it. We've been here together like I think 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
We don't
It was
go.
our first trip here.
Yeah, when the first trip.
Maybe
to
that's
Berlin.
because it's so important to us here. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe that. Yeah, we're quite often here, but we don't always go to the top. You have to buy tickets for that, but you can actually.
It's nice. Nice
Yeah, it's
view
really
from
nice.
there, yeah.
It's really nice actually, and the glass top designed by Sir Norman Foster. So that's also a thing, of course, like basically a UK heart on top of the German government building. Yeah, and I think like we Germans, we are still
very grateful for like today. You know, they are all our allies, but at that point, our today's allies, they sacrifice their lives for our freedom, and we're still very grateful for that. I can stand here right now and say what I want about our Chancellor, and I won't go to jail for that, you know. So this to me actually one of the most important things in our life, which so many people take for granted, you know, but it's not. It's actually not. Yeah, and this is also Berlin, here relaxing alongside the Spree River. It's really cool and nice weather. This is the train station, main train station, opposite side of the river here. And you can even sit in the sun, almost like at the beach, actually. So that's pretty cool.
Yay, I'm driving now.
Now it's Leah's time to drive, and we want to hear more about, you know, like what she actually has to say. And well, actually, she's not driving because, again, the car is just driving itself.
That's so cool, yeah. Let's step up the game because the iX3 from us, it's not that good.
The X3.
X3 from us, yeah.
She's already talking as we would own the car. That's dangerous. That's dangerous.
I want that one here. It's really cool.
So you think it's better than the X3 plug-in hybrid?
Yeah. Comfort is, I think, better in the GLC because of the suspension, because of the air suspension. But here, when the road is even and everything is fine, then you don't care about it. But yeah, would be cool if you had it. Yeah,
potholes, cobblestones, and the suspension is a little bit rough here. But then again, you get this unity of driver and
it's sporty in the corners. That's cool with the steering wheel here with the thumbs in it. Yeah, I'm a little racer.
She's actually driving faster than I do usually.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect it, but it's true. It's true. Busted.
And now lane change. Okay.
Because the construction site now.
Maybe because of that.
Yeah, it doesn't do like the thing in the construction site, and you know, because I think we are approaching construction site. But yeah.
Seating comfort is also very nice. I love it, but could be a seat ventilation. Would be nice. Yeah.
What about the steering feeling itself?
It's light but direct. You know what to do when you sit in. Then you're like, okay, no, I'm ready to drive it. Yeah, so much fun, really. Yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah, that's definitely a good sign for a car, because Leah's also has become very critical, you know, with car. So like a really car critic, so to speak. So that's definitely a good stem for the iX3. So I'm also looking even more forward to what she will have to say about the GLC EQ and the EX60 when we drive these very soon together. Then. So I mean, the light steering is also very important for you. That it's light to control, but at the same time it has good feeling.
Yes. And it's easy to control here because you have everything has a button, not a real button, but you know what to do here with that one. It's easy to start that. Yeah.
And I also got the feeling like, I mean, I'm used to drive new cars every day since like 15, 20 years. But for Leah, when she gets like in a new car, of course, she doesn't have so much experience with changing vehicles. Yeah. But here she was like starting to drive and immediately like felt at home. I was thinking like she was driving as like she has driven this car like for 10 years, you know. So at least that's what I
I felt it too. Yeah, that's I agree. Yeah. I'm happy. Yeah.
Any wishes? Yeah, air suspension.
Air suspension, seat ventilation. That would be nice. And the 360 camera thing. Yeah. This
was very interesting because this very vehicle is not equipped with everything. It doesn't have head-up display, doesn't have 360-degree camera. So that is one thing. You need the 360-degree camera for this vehicle.
That's really important. Yeah.
So we finally found a vehicle from BMW. I think it's a good move that doesn't have all the specs. So then you can give better tips for you, like which features don't care about it, but which ones do you really need? And the 360-degree camera, you should definitely have the click on that when configuring.
And the 20-inch wheels, that's really needed for comfort.
So we already drove out of the city now, and now the GPS says, because we already covered a few kilometers now, still 520 kilometers left, and the prediction in the car says now 500 kilometers it can do. Of course, it was like with the average where we drove also faster and so on. So let's see if that still works now, going home without
Oh.
a charge in between. Let's see about that.
Yay!
We're right. We made it. Now in the dark basement garage, and Leah did a very great job actually. Now she's very tired.
Yeah.
But this is actually the longest the longest range Leah has ever covered in the vehicle, because the iX3 also helped her and she could relax a little bit with this hands-off feature here.
That's true.
And we really did it like also without doing any break, because we went to the toilet right before one more time, and then we actually really made it through.
Yeah.
Wanted to make this test here, and like the figures here are really crazy, really crazy, and shown in the panoramic vision in the front, but also in infotainment. So panoramic vision here says we have covered now 530 kilometers. And there
10% left.
10% battery and 62 kilometers left. So we could have done here 590 kilometers, or it's like 370 miles overall. But that's really like 100 to 0. It's always good to have somewhat of a buffer. But this was easily possible now. And the way we drove was really, we drove always 130 kilometers an hour, 80 miles an hour when it was possible. But sometimes there was construction site. Once there was like a closure on the road, we had to go off, go on again. And we also had some city traffic at the beginning, and some small city traffic at the end. So the overall average here is 100 kilometers an hour average speed. And we have the total consumption of 18 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. And that's, looking at my clever list, you know, always well prepared. So 18 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometer is 3.45 miles per kilowatt hour. That's really amazing. That's really cool. Why is the result slightly worse than before when we tested 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour? Because that was reset and then only 100 kilometers an hour. Now, in this 100 kilometers an hour, there's also some slower city traffic, but there's also a lot of 130 kilometers an hour in there. That's why the value here is worse, but still, it's really great. So,
and it was fun to drive.
That's cool. That's good. I mean, even that, you know, and here the overall consumption, we used 96 kilowatt hours from that battery, and 94, almost 95%. It was just the powertrain. Why should you be afraid of driving an EV right now? You know, this was actually an even better experience, gotta say that. Yeah, what is there to improve? We mentioned it. You have this unified feeling of the vehicle, and it drives very sporty, but of the course of being a little bit rough. With the 20-inch wheels, it's the best driving experience you can get. You should get 20-inch wheels for range and for comfort, but still, like the GLC EQ would drive softer with the air suspension, or when the Volvo EX60 has the option air suspension, but only if they have this option air suspension, otherwise it probably won't make the biggest difference there. So air suspension, we would wish that. Then laminated windows would be cool to get the noise level even more down. I mean, up to 130 kilometers an hour, it's fine. And most people worldwide will not use this car at higher speeds. And that also leads to the next critical thing. At about 150 kilometers an hour, the front hood starts to shake a little bit. 93 miles is that. The front hood starts shaking a little bit. Not sure if the metal is too thin. We had the same, by the way, with the Lexus RZ in the latest generation. And what's happening to the front hood? BMW says, yes, indeed, it is actually pretty thin at this moment, because for the pedestrian safety. That's a very crucial point. So at this moment, it's trimmed on maximum pedestrian safety. And then this goal conflict is that it's, you know, a little bit shaking at very, very high speeds. And now they're looking into that with that feedback and say they want to hit the spot even better, that it still fits the regulations for pedestrian safety, but they make it a little bit thicker, that it doesn't shake anymore. You know, it's more like a cosmetic problem. It still shouldn't be, but it's interesting that they kind of know there is this goal conflict, and then you have to hit that very fine line where both things are basically fulfilled. Yeah, very interesting. Here, this one was equipped with a bass sound system. Do not get the bass sound system unless you're listening to radio only. That's fine. If you really want to listen to proper your music, you have to get the Harman Kardon sound system here. And you have to get the 360-degree camera. It's a must for this vehicle. This is also not equipped with that, but it was very interesting to get a vehicle from BMW that's not equipped with everything, that you can check out, hey, what do you need and what
you maybe don't need.
Such an important and interesting review here today. A full driving review of the all-new Mercedes GLC as the GLC EQ, the electric GLC. How good is it? Is it one of the best SUVs out there at this moment? And how does it relate to the BMW iX3, the main new competitor, because we have driven that one already as well? And how does this one relate to the combustion engine model? What is their plan at Mercedes between combustion GLC and electric GLC? We will tell you all about it. And one thing is already clear. The German automotive industry is going full throttle or full accelerator pedal again, now also in the electric segment. And this is definitely one of the most important models in that respect. But how does it relate to also into the trims, exterior, interior, different versions, different colors, everything with Thomas and Autogefuehl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with the new GLC, which has this retro front grille inspired by the W108, 109. That was the Mercedes that was preceding the first S-Class, the 116. And I think what I've achieved is that they have this retro grille, which has the same form and outline, but new interpretation with light. These dots are illuminated. This star is illuminated. In the North American market, you also have the illuminated ring around because that's allowed there. It's not allowed in the EU. They would have done that. So they have this mix between retro look and modern look. In this case, I think it's very well done. The original EQ look of their new models was, I think, too artificial and not enough Mercedes-alike. And here the good thing is, when you would not see the logos, you could still see, oh, that's the Mercedes, you know, and that was the goal of it. Here, this is the avant-garde, the base trim, so to speak, and that has the chrome frame around, right? You can also get dark chrome, soon showing that to you. In the AMG line, this inner side would be dark chrome as well. And then you can get both dark chrome inside and outside, so we'll show you different versions. But this is the more like classy look. I like this look very much. And also the clear blue color, aka Thomas blue, because this is one of my favorite blue tones here, definitely. It is a blue color that is really screaming out, yes, I am a blue color. Then headlamps here with the star identity. This is the digital light, matrix LED, where you can see this also has these blue lines on the inside. Then you also know this is a digital light, and it also says right here. So then it can also have this extensive high beam function. Then you see extensive power domes here on front of the hood. And talking about the hood, there's a special feature because they have a frunk here. And here we press the logo just slightly, and then we do this manual release. It's very funny to see, by the way, how they do this manual release and with the cable right there. And you have a significant frunk, really large, you know, for a cable. There's also nice floor mat in there, for example. These would be then where the splitters for the American market would be put inside, because, yeah, you know, there's the thing that they have this regulation that people don't get the idea that they put people in the front. Yeah, about that. But it's very well usable, pretty cool. And this opening mechanism is also coming very handy. So that's really, really nice. Like that. And you also see that they kept the relatively long front hood for design purposes, for aerodynamics, and here to get a very large frunk as well, because now it's getting very interesting as well as for the dimensions. We are here at 4.85 meters or 191 inches, and that is 30 centimeters, 5 inches longer than the combustion engine GLC. 8 centimeters of that goes into the longer wheelbase, and then 5 centimeters or 2 inches goes into exactly here a longer legroom on the inside. So taking a look at that, then here you can see that they kept this long hood as a core identity of the GLC. 20-inch wheels, 19 to 21 is the range. Here then in the middle, different designs are available. And I have to see, there's one special design in 20-inch which I really love. It's not this one, it's also cool, but there's one new special design which is pretty cool. Let's see if we can find that somehow. In this case here, also the Avantgarde has the classic SUV plastic wheel arches. I mean, why not? And also very special, the entry-level version still has real door handles. Why is that so important? First of all, here you have very good, just normal feedback, and they're easy to open. And to me, also safer, because the higher trim versions have the flush door handles that come out. And they're supposed to be very safe at German manufacturers, but because some other manufacturers didn't implement them that well. There were these incidents in China where they couldn't get the door open in the accident, and now the Chinese market will be will have them forbidden. These flush door handles. The good thing for Mercedes is they have them. They can just pull them out. Hey, we already have them. At this moment, when you order the GLC, very initially, you cannot get them with keyless go. So you always have to take out the key and open the vehicle, pressing on the key fob, and only keyless go in combination with the flush door handles. But I asked Mercedes, customers want keyless go, but also classic door handles. So will you offer that, the combination, classic door handles and keyless entry? And they said, yes, we are also going to offer that. So that's very important info. Classic GLC look here, and I think it's also nice that they didn't make a special electric look for the GLC now, but they kept it with its true identity indeed. The only thing is, and we see that with all new Mercedes models, let's say not only electric models, but also new upcoming models or facelifts and so on, that they use this black bar here. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of that. I asked the designers, why did you actually do that? And the reason they did that is they wanted to keep the star on the same line here with the lights, and then this star has the flipping logo effect to open the trunk, and also the rear view camera is hidden there, that it's protected against wind, rain and so on. But then they said it has to be in a certain angle, because then the rear view camera has to look down in a specific angle, and so they put it together in this unit that they can put it on the same height, but it still complies with all regulations at how the camera has to look. And the other solution would be that you put it somewhere else in the metal, but then you cannot align the stars so well with the same height of the lamps. This is like one of the explanations for that. Bottom line, I like it better when you see more vehicle color in the rear than the black bar. Or what do you think about it? Nice, I think, again, that they use this, Mercedes structure here with the stars also in the tail lamps, why not? And the Avantgarde has more chrome in the lower part right here, bright design, whereas the AMG line would have high gloss black. And we're soon going to show you an AMG line exterior and also interior later on, that you can also compare that. This is here the GLC 400. And you see, it just says GLC 400 and 4MATIC. And it doesn't say EQ or something like that. And it seems to me that they, kind of want to get rid of this naming logic a little bit, And I mean, why not? Just people haven't asked for this. Just call it, then we say electric GLC or whatever, And the second vehicle for you to show you the differences. First of all, here in the normal white color, and this is with AMG line. Of course, good contrast to the white color then. AMG line has different graphic here in the lower part in comparison to the Avantgarde. And also the grille here, this is equipped with the night package. So it doesn't automatically come with AMG line, but with the night package, then you have dark chrome here, the outline, and we also have here these black pads here, or these covers then for the side mirrors, and we also have the black outline around the window. So here then AMG line plus the night package for the sportier look overall. For example, also the lower side skirt is then here in the high gloss black. We also have different wheels here. These are 20-inch wheels in this aerodynamic design right here. And you can see that in the rear, you do have talked about this black mask, and then you have even, like this almost parallel running in a different height than the high gloss black in the lower part. So tell me in the comments if you're more like the Avantgarde style, which would be probably my favorite, more classy look. And this would be probably like Leah would design the vehicle. She's all more into the AMG line, more black, or M Sport package, Audi S and so on. But whatever you prefer actually. And later when we jump to the interior part now, we will also take a look at this very vehicle, because this also has then the AMG line interior. And whereas we just had the opaline white vehicles, this is the white color, this one here is the Patagonia Red with AMG Line Plus and night package. What does that mean? We have night package, again, the frame outside in dark. AMG Line also makes the inside of the grille dark chrome, but you could also have the AMG Line, of course, with the bright frame outside if you don't go for the night package. So you have some variation that is possible. And you could theoretically also depict this dark chrome on the inside and make it bright on the inside. So yeah, whatever you desire, you can pick it there. And then here with the AMG Line Plus, we have special wheels, the biggest ones, 21-inch in black. In this case, and also here with these side steps, which maybe look negative as for the wind resistance, but they're actually rather helping. And AMG Line Plus here in the rear also has a little bit longer spoiler. So usually it's like this. And then you have this longer spoiler than here in the rear, if you want to have it even more, a little bit dramatic. But then about the facts and figures, because so far there's this new electric GLC, and then there will be the combustion engine running parallel. So they will not discontinue the combustion engine and plug-in and diesel and petrol GLC. But at this moment, it's also not planned that the current GLC will be completely renovated, you know, like this. And I mean, that's, I think, fine. The current GLC model is also good. And this one is the MB.EA platform. So this is a purely dedicated EV platform. Means this could not house a combustion engine GLC anyway. Then to the EV facts here. Charging flap is right there. So also electric, 11 kilowatt AC or option 22. And then here you have an official 330 kilowatt DC charging peak, also closest electric again. It can, however, also reach some higher figures like 350, 355 kilowatts just for a very brief time. Then the charging curves are also dropping quite quickly, and you can go from 10 to 80% state of charge in about 22 minutes. And that was also achieved. Could see that, like the concise test of that's working very well. However, it seems that the iX3 charging curve is maintained a little bit more, and that the iX3 charges basically in the same time, or maybe a little bit quicker, but for a larger battery, because the battery here is 94.5 kilowatt hours net, whereas the BMW iX3 has 108.7 kilowatt hours. So a 14 kilowatt hour difference, together with CD value differences. Here the GLC is already aerodynamic, but 0.26, whereas the iX3, the lower value is better, is at 0.24. So it seems to be that the iX3 has a bigger battery and also better CD value, and the frontal area is also not a huge difference. Not that this one would have a great advantage there or something. So we can then expect a little bit more range probably from the iX3. We'll do a first range test here today with this one, and we already did with the iX3. And at the end of the video, we are then going to compare it. That seems like, wait a minute, is the iX3 then better? However, here the GLC, the electric one, also has a lot of advantages in itself and unique selling points. For example, acceleration. 4.3 seconds, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. That sounds like a pure AMG model, whereas it is not. I mean, if this one will get an AMG model, like what's the acceleration is going to be about, you know? And why is that possible, whereas the iX3 accelerates in 4.9 seconds? So 0.6 seconds slower than. This one is so quick in the acceleration because it uses a 2-speed gearbox, although it's an electric vehicle. And the first gear will go 0 to 1 kilometers an hour. In the first gear, will hold it, be extremely quickly. But in normal situations, it would already shift up to the second gear at 70 kilometers an hour and use the second gear for motorway driving, higher speed and better efficiency and so on. So we'll see about this effect. And also very important here, we get for this car air suspension and rear axle steering. So here then the rear wheels can turn up to 4.5 degrees in the opposite direction than the front wheels. And together in this package with the air suspension, this is one package. You can get it in this, I think it's called like agility control package, and also in the long range package. So they're both bound together and supposed to be also available on all markets. And air suspension and rear steering, the iX3 does not have that, whereas the GLC does get this option. Then again, the price goes higher and so on. So you see, there will be different focuses, but definitely super, super interesting. And of course, the interior will be even more interesting. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, I love these classic door handles then. In this case, really gotta say that. And door closing sound. Good door closing sound, very solid. Let's check out the rear. Yeah, solid as well, like that. And I prefer the classic door handles, but yeah, again, the combination then would be better from the door handles, the classic ones, and the keyless go. Inside of the door, here, very soft touch, also with like a soft touch underneath. Like when you press it in, great quality. Also here with the high-grade leather red and in beige, different colors are available. And 4 window levers, not 2 like in the CLA. And this one here also gives some feedback, the seat control inside of the doors. However, we did lose the seat heating button there, sadly. Then Burmester sound system, and then here hard pack at the inside of the door, a little bit of rubber pad underneath though. You can also open the trunk or the trunk also from here. That's also possible. Then we have, let's see here, the Avantgarde base steering wheel. AMG line would have 2 spokes. We will soon take a comparing look. This is also the new animal-free material here at the steering wheel. It's a little bit more matte, less greasy basically than the animal skin surface, and it really feels soft. And also like underneath, you know, when you press it in, it gives like some, you know, underneath they have some dampening basically. This is really good high quality, love that. And real buttons here, the rocker and roller as they call it, for the cruise control and for the volume jog. They have listened to customers, listened to our feedback as well, and returned these real tactile things on the steering wheel. And also here with the recuperation settings, with the shifting pedals, for example, dramatic turbine air vents, and also like how the quality is there, you know, when you turn it around like this, really nice. Matte wood here also, birch wood, this beautiful design, feels really nice. More to that soon. Different matte wood are available. Then these seats here are the high-grade leatherette seats, the Artico seats. And I tested the animal skin seat as well off camera, and when you press it down here, this one gives a nicer pattern, whereas you have more like, you know, there's like this sort of rinses with the animal skin, and this is a little bit softer. So you have a softer surface here. You gotta say though that the BMW iX3, the leatherette quality, is even softer, even a little bit better. The top part here is the comfort seat. You also have a sport seat, and that would have like a stronger bolstering, so to speak, here in this area, and also the integrated head restraint. This one with a separated head restraint. We'll soon tell you all about the differences. And then here the lower area, however, is supposed to be rather the same as for the seating depth. And let's test the comfort. So this one here, Artico leatherette, seat heating, seat cooling will also be available, not at the very first start configurator day, but later also as a separate option. So seat cooling for the Artico seats available. There is optional animal skin in the configurator, and then the microfiber for the sport seat, soon going to show you. And the German market, for example, will also get base fabric seats, fabric outside, leatherette outside. And I think fabric is an underrated seating material. So especially in the American and the Asian markets, it's often, let's say, it's less quality and so on, but it's actually not. The modern fabric seats are pretty breathable and also very cozy when sitting on them, but usually they are then not offered on all markets. Here, manual, making it longer here, extension, and yeah, it's actually nice comfort. So yeah, you can't criticize here anything. The only thing is that the iX3 has a little bit better ergonomics, a wider seat I feel, and a little bit softer from the materials. So here also, once again, the only thing is that there is a competitor that is a little bit better in the seating comfort, but overall great job by Mercedes also introducing this material and showing that you're not losing anything but just gaining from these technologies. And then here, headroom 189, 6'2", a lot of headroom left, fixed glass roof, soon more details to that, and steering wheel here with electric control, in and out, up and down. So yeah, and more to the screen here very soon, but overall you feel that they have once again like stepped up the build quality here. Is really nicely done. And important to show that as well, laminated glass here in the front. And now welcome to the new GLC cockpit. A lot to say about this one here. First of all, this is the highest spec. Then you have this hyper screen. This is really one monitor that goes all the way through. And what they have done in a very nice way, gotta admit that. For example, here you have these schemes, and then they change the background of the screen, and together also the ambient lighting changes. So then the ambient lighting and the scheme on the background is somewhat similar, and that looks really cool, you know. So it's of course nothing that is really needed, but they really play with the high resolution of these screens here, and it's really elegant solution of adding some more digital value, so to speak. Because the thing is, when you remove buttons and switches and so on, how can you still transport a high-class feeling? And that's why I also say to the manufacturers, you still have to offer buttons and switches that you can still be like a high-class 70s, 80s metal stereo. You know, that's why they still have manual volume jog here, for example. That's why they reintroduced the jogs at the steering wheel as well. The only thing I do not have is the climate unit in a tactile way. So this is then in the screen and actually also pretty tiny overall, gotta say. So this screen that goes all the way through is an option. It would start with 2 big bezels here and then 1, 2, 3 screens. However, the base passenger side screen, if you haven't picked any package, is just for a background image and it's not a functional passenger screen. Strange that they make the step, right? And then if you go for the first option, for the first package, then you have here a passenger screen, and this is already included, of course, then in the highest hyper screen, which has then no bezels at all. You can, for example, watch Autogefuehl YouTube videos. We'll also try that while driving later on. It will be quite fun. I'm not watching that. Jonas will watch that, who was filming us today. Then here, also soft touch on the top dashboard, more speakers, ambient lighting integration, and then we have beautiful design of these air vents here, also with clicking sound, more of this birch wood, which looks really cool, and also you can feel actually and hear how I feel that. I love that. Different matte wood styles are available, and cup holders are somewhat adaptive. However, they will not hold tall bottles tight enough. So I would wish for this 4-dot design they introduced with the Mercedes S-Class recently in the facelift. Underneath this middle console, we have 2 USB-C chargers. There's no way that goes through from the bottom to the top. Maybe that's mounting reason, but there is a big hole underneath here, but it has no connection to the top chargers here, the inductive charging pads, which are also, wait a minute, I think this looks like there's only 1, but I think there's also 2 available. Maybe that's an option. You cannot put a cable through like in the CLA or something like that. So I would always prefer the cable charging, but you can freely pick if you want cable or inductive charging. Then you have this split armrest, also soft enough for your elbow. And there's then, yeah, you can place all the clutter then here, or microfiber towel with, for cleaning the screen and so on. Then glove box is here, also smoothly dampened. Oh, this is not covered from the inside here, but here at least, not too spacious though. And about this panoramic roof. So also difference, BMW iX3 gets, if you just want, a fixed roof, and then optional, the fixed glass roof. Neither of them have roofs you can open, and this one has this special effect. So it is a fixed glass roof by standard, and then either you have it clear like this, and then you can go for this option here that you can also change it in a digital way with the PDLC technology, but it doesn't change how much sun it comes here. It's more against maybe a little bit less blinding that way, but the heat protection is always standard in the glass, even if you don't go for this option. And it is a very highly sophisticated technology that really leaves a lot of heat from the sun outside, but still a completely fixed roof with metal would still leave more sun outside, you know, so we have to be aware of that. But I mean, it looks cool, it looks modern, brings light on the interior. Might just be a problem when it's like really, really super, super hot in summer days. Then you should also use the preconditioning function for this vehicle, which also works very, very well. Yeah, what do you think about that? And optional, you could then also go for a star pattern in this panoramic roof that you see like some illuminated tiny stars in there. So you see, it's always the scheme here that a lot is optional, but you'll be also just fine with most of the base functions for sure. And the driver POV, once again here with the real buttons. This one is still capacitive here though, gotta say that. And on the other side, this is also the capacitive control for the instruments, not my favorite, but I'm really happy to have the real jogs back then here. And to the digital instruments, when you have this classic view, then you have the even transition also to the full screen. And here in this map view, for example, then you have like, looks like a separate screen, although it's not a separate screen, you know. So yeah, this, by the way, oh, when the door is not properly closed, there we go, then it's properly closed. Then you can change something more of the views and also what you want to have in the middle. And this is, by the way, also a realistic consumption at these speeds. First preview on that, and we soon do a motorway trip only with higher average speed, and the consumption will also be a little bit higher. But clear to read everything. You can also get a head-up display. Hard to see on camera, but it's huge with your own eyes indeed. And then the main infotainment screen with the high resolution is also actually decently quick. What's important to me is, yes, not good to have the temperature only there, but the seat heating is also in the first level. So you can activate that, and then seat heating and steering wheel heating is activated at the same time. If you want to go more deeper in the menu, here it's possible, and then you can also deactivate it individually, for example. Not sure how it will be with the seat cooling, if it will also be in the same level. Let's wait for that. And then here, for the EU speed chime law, you press in the top part, you can deactivate it then, or you can also deactivate it with pressing and holding here the volume button right there. And you also have Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. So I'm going to show that to you. And let's test the Burmester sound system. Wow, testing the Burmester sound system here is great. It's awesome sound. It really like goosebump sound, so I can just recommend that. And yeah, intense setting for electronic music and the pure setting for acoustic music. So wow, it's awesome sound really. So yeah, definitely one of my favorite systems. Apple CarPlay integration or Android Auto, there you see that, I mean, you have different backgrounds for your stuff there. And in this case, when you often use Apple CarPlay, this doesn't work that well with the transition of the rest of the system, you know. It's planned to be used by Mercedes graphics only, basically. It's not bad, but there you can see when you use often the Apple CarPlay, then it doesn't make such a big difference. When you then have like the bezels, then you more have like your own separate screen. So I would really say, if you want to use the Mercedes GPS all the time, then maybe go for the hyper screen. But when you use Apple CarPlay very often, it's maybe then not so important to go for this hyper screen. And also interesting here to take a look at the Mercedes app. Nice visualization, and then you can also unlock the vehicle with that. With the keyless go, of course, you can just use your smartphone then as a key. And here, for example, you also have the charging statistic and so on. Very important also maybe for taxation and stuff like this. So yeah, that looks pretty good already. And yeah, we have to test it through then maybe if we have the vehicle for a longer period of time than with the keyless go. And now the second interior for today, AMG line interior. First of all here, everything wrapped tight with a leatherette, nice ambient lighting integration, more leatherette here. And this once again here without any cover, this of course in the same rubber pad in the lower part. And then we have AMG line floor mats right there with the logo. This is also the AMG steering wheel with 2 spokes actually then in this case. And this is the sport seat. Microfiber on the inside, leatherette on the outside, and the sport seat is especially different here in the back area. So you have this integrated headrest, then you have more shoulder support, and yeah, it's a little bit firmer then. But the lower part shouldn't be the biggest difference. Of course, and here with the microfiber is also a comfortable choice. So yeah, I mean, like from the seating itself is not the biggest difference, but the bigger difference is definitely here in the upper area. So on the one hand, it's maybe a little bit firmer, but it also keeps you tighter a little bit. I mean, it's also a good seating position. I got to think about this. Maybe also then again while driving, which one is the more suitable choice. So yeah, tough choice indeed. But good materials also used. The microfiber is also very nice because you, yeah, so to speak, have a yeah, maybe like a cozier atmosphere. But that's totally a matter of preference. You know, some rather prefer the stick surface. You can clean it easier or so on than here the sportier surface, but both work very well. And the cockpit overview, once again here with the screen that goes all the way through, different decor element. It feels matte here, has more like a honeycomb structure, I would say so, that matches a little bit with the aluminum. Not sure if this one would be my favorite, but just to give you like a different design idea, and also here how the AMG line steering wheel looks again. Now the rear doors, here also everything covered with leatherette, that's nice. Well, there's a sound system even more, and then hard pack here again, and then to the rear seats. So you have about 5 centimeters or 2 inches more rear legroom in comparison to the GLC combustion engine. So here, so also when I'm driving as a tall person in the front, there's enough legroom left, and yeah, more spacious than in the combustion engine version. Headroom here to the side, a little bit close. And then here in the middle to the glass roof, also plenty of space, no problem. And here in the middle part, by the way, folding this down, And you have either a smartphone holder or some cup holders in there. And the rear comfort is also fairly good. And you see also that although it's an electric vehicle, there's not too much bending, from the angle of the knees here. Advantage for an SUV because they have, more space than in the height. And yeah, it's actually quite cozy here. Why not? You can definitely use it here. 2 USB-C chargers in the middle part, and there's also not much of a middle tunnel here, of course. Yeah, since electric vehicle, one electric motor in the front, one in the rear, then you don't need it in the same way like you would do with a classic combustion engine. And ISOFIX then here on the outsides each. Interesting, this can be like pulled in like this, and then maybe that wasn't a good idea. Yeah, there we go. And let's see from the inclination here. No, that's it. So that's only for folding, but you could fold down this ski hedge here, for example. Trunk or boot at 570 liter, and here we flip the Mercedes star to open it. There we go. Then we have this cover here, which also has rails left and right. This one still fits underneath vertically, barely, but still works. Of course, you could also remove this whole thing. And then the measurements are actually pretty interesting. So, but first of all, here underneath, there's just a little bit of space. Not too much, but for some shallow stuff. However, you can also move this one then in the lower position, and that gives you additional height. First of all, the normal length here is about a little bit longer than 1 meter or 40 inches. So that's already good. And here also the standard width, look at that. This is more like 1 meter 10 or 43 inches. So that's very good actually. And then when you put it in a lower position, then you are here at almost 31 inches or 78 centimeters. So I like these dimensions indeed. That's pretty good. And if you want to load things through, you can of course put that in the upper position again. There we go. And then here, this cool thing, we have remote unlock for the seats. The BMW iX3 does not have that. Here it is possible. You have to be aware, by the way, sometimes it doesn't work because the seat belts hold tight. So the seat belts always have to be loose for that. And then here we can load through overall 74 inches or a little bit less than 1 meter 90. But overall, I think very good dimensions here. Even the 7th generation. Let's start driving the GLC EQ, electric GLC, and you can see here, Jonas was filming us today here. You can watch the latest YouTube episode right here on the right side. And when I'm driving slowly, it still works. I mean, it's there to be used while being stationary, And then you can see here, instruments goes over into the large infotainment system and then goes over into the passenger screen. And yeah, I mean, that looks super impressive, definitely. But the thing is here, just watch it. When I start driving a little bit quicker, it should also disappear, that it doesn't distract me. See here, 20 kilometers an hour. Oh, did we trick the system actually? Because it should disappear, right? When we were doing like a dry test, it did disappear. So because usually they don't allow that the driver could theoretically still keep watching, but maybe it's because Jonas played so much with the screen. So I don't know. I think that's not supposed to be, and it did disappear in an earlier dry test. So yeah, probably you can trick the system and somehow. I don't know. Yeah, very interesting. So yeah, Jonas can watch the latest episode while I'm recording then the newer one. That's funny, but yeah. Well, I'm not sure if that's maybe distracting to the viewer or so. Yeah, maybe let's do some nice background picture or something like that. Yeah, there we go. Or like this. So we want to try different situations here with the GLC electric, and that is city, countryside driving, also motorway, acceleration of course, and at the end of the episode we're going to talk about the consumption and the concise range, real-world range, and so on. This vehicle here is equipped with 20-inch wheels. Oh, there's like this manhole cover here. Easily done, very smooth. 20-inch wheels, air suspension and rear axle steering. And this is of course something special if you compare it to the iX3, which has a fantastic base suspension. There, iX3 adaptive suspension later, but no air suspension. Here they go, standard suspension, or then you can directly hop to the air suspension. And this of course gives you more flexibility in the ride, so to speak. This is here this augmented reality feature. You don't have to have it, but you could theoretically. That gives me like the Mercedes internal GPS view then with these augmented arrows right there. With the rear axle steering, you're very flexible also here in slow slalom, for example. I feel that the rear is then moving a little bit, and just easing the car around when you're driving slowly is, I mean, it's so easily done. Maybe I can show you, just drive straight and I can show that to you when I just turn around here, you know. So doing just the U-turn where it's like, I mean, this is like not a small car, and then here you can turn it around. And it's so, I mean, then you can watch here in the mirror also sometimes how the rear wheels, here, look at that, augmented reality also with looking underneath, and easing these cars around is so easy. And we had that recently also when we go comparing the X3 plug-in hybrid, which we were driving, or which we are driving at this moment, and the GLC, which has the, like a GLC combustion engine, which has the rear axle steering. And getting in and out of the basement garage is just so much easier than with the rear axle steering when you have to, you know, do another maneuver and so on. It's a very silent vehicle, feeling it already in the city. We have the lamination here in the front glass. Not in the rear, but in the front, it's for most cases enough. Bumpy in the road, yeah, that is cool. So the air suspension delivers you great comfort. Seating-wise, as I said, we have here the Artico seats, which are a little bit softer than the animal skin leather. The sport seats with the microfiber are also very good. The microfiber surface is maybe a little bit better than as well, because I feel that the BMW iX3 high-grade leather red, that is a step more in the quality. It's even a little bit softer than this one here, you know. And so probably for the GLC, I would go with the microfiber seat as the sport seat. It also keeps you, you know, in the top part a little bit, you know, more enclosed in the shoulder area. But the sitting area, that is more or less the same from the seating depth. So you can go with both. It's actually no problem. The biggest driving difference between iX3 and this one here is definitely the air suspension, because you have this, when you have these waves in the road, like here, you know, in the city surrounding, it just evens it out in this typical air suspension way, you know, and that is really interesting. Driving modes, I'm glad to have this button still and can also click that through. I don't have to confirm it in the screen. And then in the sport mode, the air suspension is a little bit stiffer. I also have more resistance from the steering wheel. The steering itself has a good grip. Here also with the vegan surface then in this case, which appears a little bit matte. It's not that as greasy as the animal skin could, you know, become after a while. But if you step in this vehicle, no one could tell actually a difference from the feeling so far. And the steering itself, how it reacts, is really precise. I like that. And don't have no dead zone area. And yeah, some more feedback here in the sport mode. Let's check it again. Comfort mode. Yeah. In the comfort mode, steering is lighter. In the sport mode, it gets then a little bit more resistance. And of course, you maybe know my favorite setting. Individual mode, more resistance in the steering, but suspension here, the air suspension, still kept at the comfort level. That is the setup I really like, I really prefer. So this vehicle gives you a very calm feeling while driving. And if you compare it to the GLC combustion engine, I mean, you know that here on our channel, we have always taken a viewer-based, neutral, technology open view to all different drivetrains and presenting like this might be the best solution for, you know, this use case and this use case and so on. But just from the driving, you really have to say this one drives better than the GLC combustion engine. And this is a tough thing to say because the GLC combustion engine is an SUV which is top-notch in driving already. But this one here adds another level of calmness and sophistication. And from the technology, yes, you have the extra weight, and that might play a role then when you have like super, super tight corners or something like that. But the center of gravity is low, and it feels so calm, refined, and sophisticated. It's just really great. Here, by the way, we can test something. Let's go to sport mode, and then we can accelerate here because it shows here 90, and then let's go here from like 40 to 90. Let's go. What? No way. I mean, that was even slightly uphill. And that is also this two-speed system. So you have first gear and second gear, although it's an electric vehicle. And when you do 0 to 100, it stays in that first gear. Usually it would switch to the second gear like 70 kilometers an hour. But if you do like the full acceleration, it keeps the first gear longer. At the same time, you can use the second gear at higher speeds and then have efficiency gains, from this kind of transmission. Wow. And I mean, this is here 4.3 seconds in the acceleration figure, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. One electric motor in the front, one in the rear. Beautiful dolphin statue, or you call it statue. Beautiful design of the roundabout. Spring. Dolphin spring. So 4.3 seconds, and remember the BMW fountain. Yeah, right. Spring is like where the water originally comes from. A dolphin fountain roundabout design. Let's take it that way. So back to the acceleration, 4.3 seconds. The BMW iX3 is at 4.9 seconds. And I mean, sub 5 seconds in the acceleration figure is still fine. Everyone can use that. Totally okay. Go back to the comfort mode here. However, here, really explosive power, although this is not like an AMG version. I mean, what's the AMG version supposed to be of this one here? So really, really quick due to this transmission system. This is the advantages of the GLC EQ here in comparison to the iX3. Air suspension and also quicker acceleration. Yet again, the battery of the iX3 is 14 kilowatt hours larger and supposed to have then better range. But of course, it always also depends on the efficiency. And we drive this car here today more and more to find out more about a realistic real-world value, and especially when we go to the motorway soon. Here, by the way, also easing in and out of the roundabout. Such a pleasant drive, it's so calm, refined, sophisticated. So this is really, really next level. At the same time, you sit upright. If you, for example, compare it to a Mercedes CLA, if you think, well, hey, I'd rather go like electric sedan, especially like tall people. I mean, Jonas is one of the rare people that's even taller than me. So, but he also sits in a very comfortable way. Although you always think about like, where are his legs supposed to go? They. Yeah, but I think that's what I write. Oh, the tuk-tuk company or what is that? So enjoying the drive here, and I'm looking forward even more to go to the motorway. But you really have to ask, what else can you do? So the level of sophistication here is really good, and I can't say anything more positive about this ride, because there's probably everything said which is positive, well, at least like here from the city and the countryside surrounding and so on. Let's see about the recuperation here. Very smooth. Everything is done with recuperation. You don't need the friction brakes actually at all. Let's see. You don't go to a B mode with pulling this one down or something, but you can here. Whoa. Yeah. Use the pedals, strong recuperation, normal, no recuperation, and intelligent recuperation. What is this here? For example, it's almost like a cruise control without using the cruise control. Here, the speed is being reduced when the car is in front of me, but when the car goes away, that was not scripted, then when I'm off the throttle, then the car is just rolling. And that is, on the one hand, a good thing. On the other hand, for me personally, for example, I rather like this predictive approach of a vehicle. Means that the car always does the exact very same thing in every moment. And then I rather rely on a fixed recuperation setting, or maybe no, or just a small normal one. And then I know, hey, it always recuperates in the very same fashion. And you can argue for both systems. It just depends on what you actually prefer then to have as a setting, because efficiency-wise, it makes no difference. When you're on the brake pedal, it will first use the recuperation, and then only if needed, in super, super harsh braking, then it will actually apply the friction brakes. So, wow, really impressed with the driving here. Also, it has, I think one more level also of sophistication in comparison to this MMA, the CLA platform. I mean, it needs to be some kind of difference. So this is a perfect SUV to drive, and doesn't take away anything from the BMW iX3. It feels sportier in the drive, definitely, more direct, and might be a little bit less of the difference when you pick the base suspension here for the GLC EQ, but here with the air suspension, a little bit floatier ride. 20-inch wheels are also a good choice, let's say, than in the middle. So both, from driving BMW iX3 and GLC EQ, they are both excellent. So great news that Germany, also here in the EV segment, finally has really striking products again. Can't say it otherwise. But now, even more looking forward to how does this one perform at higher speeds on the motorway. And now the motorway, sport mode and 62-120. Let's go! Oh, that's it. Can't believe that. I mean, this is not an AMG version, but you easily get a Mercedes and an AMG in one with this SUV. This is crazy. Really, really crazy. And how quick that acceleration was. Here then the sport mode, once again, more resistance in the steering wheel and in the suspension. But of course, for longer way, motorway driving, might as well stick to the comfort mode. This is now a really rough tarmac here. Also good test for the rolling noise and so on, but cannot really compare it to other roads. I mean, you see how effed up this road here is on this. I said effed up and then Mercedes. Voice assistant response. That's weirdo. So I think we have to accelerate here out, then they can go on the motorway. Wow, I mean, it's so quickly done. Really crazy stuff, man. And the air suspension, once again, here also, when you have these longer waves on the motorway, gives you so much confidence and comfort. Of course, you might say, hey, you don't want this like waving effect, then you can also put it a little bit stiffer then. Or might as well say, hey, I want to save the money and go for the base suspension. Here, lane change, easily done. So, wow, such a great ride. And yes, the tarmac here is very rough at this moment. That's why most of the noise comes from that. But from the wind noise, from the insulation, very silent again. And it was very interesting because Jonas just, off camera just told me like, wow, he also realized how silent the car is. And he said like, Thomas, isn't that on the niveau of a Rolls Royce? And that's something to say, when the cameraman says that. And I really have to agree, like when we were driving through the city surroundings, it's so extremely silent and refined. That's really something indeed. So great motorway vehicle here also from the comfort. Yeah, the only thing is that the seating company, the iX3, is a little bit better. Here then you have the more sophisticated suspension options, so whatever you prefer. And let's also check out the assisted systems. So we can switch between limiter or the really sophisticated cruise control. Keeps the speed. Now it's also keeping the lane. And let's see, we should also be able to introduce here this automated or semi-automated lane change. Yes, I have to hold on to the steering wheel. So, and this is done then by the vehicle, this lane change here. Yeah, the only thing is a little bit tough here is really the tarmac. This is one of the loudest motorway tarmac I have heard, so don't be mistaken when you think now it's loud on the camera. It's a super silent car on the motorway, definitely. It's just that this is one of the worst motorway tarmacs I've experienced. Now here, automated lane change back, no? Doesn't want to do it? There we go. So, yeah. And that's also smoothly done. Then we have a blind spot monitor here in the side mirrors. This crazy tarmac here. There's a red triangle there in the side mirror. So also sophisticated as for the assistance systems. I would maybe say that the iX3 goes a little bit step above that even on the assistance systems. There you can also have this this hands-free on the motorway. It's still level 2, but you can do it hands-free, and the car is also doing the lane changes completely autonomously. So there the iX3 sets, another level of smoothness even on top. Also very interesting to have that. But definitely also very good from the suspension on the motorway, especially considering how destroyed it is. Maybe we should switch to the other side. That looks a little bit better there, so we can get off here and then go to the other side of the motorway and repeat that once again. Yeah, going off here also in a dynamic way. It feels really nice. Let's do it sport mode once again here with this air suspension. A little bit tighter than in the dampening. This can also go, by the way, a little bit lower on the motorway to increase efficiency. Also works. Wow. And then as soon as you have good timing, you feel again how silent and refined that car actually is. Also good how it stays very upright in the corners. So it can feel sporty, but it feels comfortable at the very same time. And what I want to do as well is to even out the consumption just on motorway and then test like 100 and 120 kilometers an hour and give you the results of that one later, because that's also something we have been looking forward to so much. And now, pricing, consumption, real-world range, and my final so far verdict, Mercedes GLC EV versus the BMW iX3. So, first of all, as for the consumption, we did today a test of motorway going back and forth, that we have like the equal topography. I tried to do a lot of 120 kilometers an hour, like 70 miles an hour, but of course with then, switching the motorway, and sometimes there's a little bit traffic and so on. You cannot always keep like 120 constant, but an overall average of a little bit something over 100 kilometers an hour, between 100 kilometers an hour, 110 kilometers an hour, 60, 65 miles an hour, which is a realistic motorway speed for most countries. And dry conditions, not too warm today, but not too cold, no rain, a little bit wind, and the tarmac rather rough. There are always so many variables, that's why it's always hard to one-to-one compare. But there, in this case, then we scored some 23 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometers. That's 2.7 miles per kilowatt hour. Can be a little bit better, indeed, got to say that. We have to test, of course, different situations. And if you had more city share in it, of course, it was a little bit lower, so like 2 to 3 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometer lower when you not only had the motorway share. But that would mean for this motorway realistic real-world range, which we try to do similar with all EVs, would mean here that you go a little bit further than 400 kilometers or 250 miles. If you have some lower motorway speed, or if you have more city share with this big battery here, smaller one later to come, and rear-wheel drive and so on, you can also get some 500 kilometers or 300 miles. However, if we now compare the BMW iX3 to that, as for the range, there we scored some 20 kilowatt hours, so some 3 miles per kilowatt hour in the rain, also at a similar speed. And that would mean some 450 kilometers of real-world range for the BMW iX3, because it also has a bigger battery, so some 330 miles. So indeed, since, as for the efficiency and the bigger battery, the BMW iX3 will come probably, a little bit more than 100 kilometers, maybe like up to 140 kilometers, 60, 65, 70 miles further than the GLC here. The battery is not the biggest one for this SUV, gotta say that. But then, of course, we have the other advantages, soon more to that when we go to the final comparison, GLC versus iX3. Gotta say about this one, although, it's not especially high consumption, so you will be fine with that. And you have also like the extras like air suspension and rear exhaust steering, which makes this car like a great drive. It drives so extremely well. It's silent on the interior, very well insulated, so smooth to drive. It's one of the best cars Mercedes has ever built from a modern perspective. There are, of course, all-time classics like 126 S-Class, for example, like this, which is one of the best Mercedes ever built overall, probably. But this one is probably at this moment one of the best Mercedes from their overall portfolio and one of the best SUVs overall out there. Can definitely say that. Maybe then there's someone better, but let's see more about that very soon. Then about the pricing. So this one starts just over 70,000 euros with this battery here. Then when you go like a well-spec car, 80,000 as it stands here right now, and this is not even full spec, 87,000 euros gross. And you can also spec one with even more extras to 95,000 euros. Not necessary though, but definitely not a cheap car. And the leasing rates will be probably also, yeah, like 1% of the gross price, approximately something like that at this moment. But we'll see also how it will score then on the market. But overall, it is a very good offer for an electric SUV, no doubt about that. Yeah, and then when you think about this iX3 comparison, so this one has the more comfortable suspension. The seats are more comfortable in the iX3, even softer material and better, like wider, better cushioning, more seating depth in the lower seatbelt area. This one, however, with the air suspension, more comfortable in the suspension-wise. Rear axle steering, important for European cities where it gets tighter. And when you maneuver around and so on, the rear axle steering helps massively, definitely. Base suspension, where the base suspension would also be a very good comparison, definitely. Yeah, and then of course the thing is that the iX3 just comes a little bit longer in the range and is also a little bit cheaper. So this is a fantastic vehicle. The BMW iX3 is the only big problem for the GLC EQ because that is also so good. That is basically probably the only car that can beat this one at this moment. But definitely what had to become clear, because I was so happy with driving this one and it drives even better than the combustion engine GLC, which is already a fantastic car. These two vehicles, GLC EQ and the BMW iX3, are really the top hitters here from the German automotive industry again. Fantastic SUVs, one of the best SUVs overall, both together at this moment. So no matter what you decide for, if you like the one or the other better from the looks, you won't regret it. Both cars are absolutely excellent. And this was also like a very, very good performance from this one here today. And I hope we could, maybe fill you in with all the details you really need to know. If there's anything left you want to know here from the GLC EV and its competitors, tell us in the comments. Tell me, what do you think about this vehicle here? Looking so much forward to your feedback. Which one should you pick and which one would we actually go for? What about the differences in exterior, interior, technology, price, and of course the efficiency and real-world range? So first of all, from the exterior, honestly, I prefer the GLC EQ in the front, but the iX3 in the rear. As for the interior, I have to say I appreciate both different concepts. The iX3 to me has more form follows function because of the far away panoramic vision. However, some solutions here like the steering wheel form and so on are a little bit over the top. So there, I think a little bit more conservative approach would have been better as for the visual thing. The GLC EQ, of course, looks especially stunning with a lot of the ambient lighting and so on, if you like that. Seating comfort, it really depends on the individual seat. Comfort seat iX3, then the sport seat of the GLC EQ are the best picks here, I feel. And then you really have to see like which is the individual seat for you, but there was a lot of info on that in the interior detailed segment. The offering of space is somewhat similar, I would say. Huge difference, of course, in the driving. The iX3 is the more driver-focused car in the way of you feel more one with the vehicle, and it's definitely a sportier, stiffer setup, awaiting the adaptive suspension here for the iX3, because when you go with the base suspension here and especially larger wheels, the ride is just too rough. I think that's the biggest criticism point. So at this moment, definitely go for the 20-inch wheels, and then as soon as the adaptive suspension is available, go for the combination 20-inch wheels and adaptive suspension, very important for the iX3. With the GLC EQ, the biggest difference is, of course, when you go for that optional air suspension together in the package with the rear axle steering, and then the riding is so great. I mean, there comes hardly anything on top of that with that S-Class air suspension here. And the rear axle steering makes also maneuvering, especially like in European cities, basement garage and so on, narrow parking, so much easier. That's, of course, a big advantage then for the GLC EQ. But then again, these extra features for the GLC EQ also need to be paid. And if we directly look at the comparing price here, fully spec'd, then we're here, as it stands here right now, 86,000 euros for the iX3, as it stands here right now, and 96,000 euros for the GLC EQ. Because it has these more features and so on, and Mercedes usually puts the prices also a little bit higher. So 10,000 euros difference between these two vehicles. Yes, you do have air suspension vehicles here and there, but you also have to think about that this one comes with a 14 kilowatt hour bigger battery, faster charging, and of course efficiency and real world range is a big topic. And yeah, due to the bigger battery and also a little bit better efficiency, the iX3 leads this segment. However, there's a big surprise, naming that the GLC EQ, that the difference in efficiency and real world range is smaller the faster you drive. Why is that? It has the air suspension that goes down at higher speeds and also the two-speed gear concept. There, the second gear basically plays out its efficiency of advantage at higher speeds. And that's why then the difference is shrinking. There is still a difference though. So now we test it at about almost 30 degrees Celsius, so almost 90 degrees Fahrenheit. These are great, even though the AC is using energy, these are great conditions because the air density is low, there's less resistance when driving. And that's why we have great figures here today. At 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, 15 kilowatt hours or 100 kilometers for the iX3, 4.1 miles per kilowatt hour, and 130 kilometers an hour or 80 miles an hour, there 20 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers or 3.1 miles per kilowatt hour for the iX3, means a real world range of 725 kilometers or 450 miles at that 100 kilometers an hour speed, and at that 130 kilometers an hour, 80 miles an hour speed, 545 kilometers or 340 miles. Very good figures. And how does the GLC compare to that? So at this 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles, we had 18 kilowatt hours or 3.45 miles per kilowatt hour. So 3 kilowatt hours more. So slightly more, yes. And that means a real range of 525 kilometers or 330 miles at that speed. Means at that 100 kilometers an hour, like slower speed, we have a range difference of 200 kilometers an hour or 125 miles an hour. So clearly, best range on a single charge, there the iX3 clearly leads it. At 130 kilometers an hour, however, 80 miles an hour, there the consumption was 21 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometers or 3 miles per kilowatt hour. Real world range, 450 kilometers or 280 miles. Then the difference here between these two shrinks to 100 kilometers or 60 miles at that higher speed. So that means on the German Autobahn, where we can often drive these higher speeds, the range difference is not that large, but when you think of US highways or inner city driving, there the range difference will be very significant. Makes the choice even tougher indeed. With the GLC EQ, when I drove really fast, I mean, I even tested 160 kilometers an hour, so like 100 miles per hour, and that was like 31 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometers, which is astonishing, like exponentially going up, you know, because the wind resistance is like, you know, quadruple. But it's crazy. So this one here is crazy efficient. The faster you drive, you know, in relation to other electric vehicles, and the iX3 really makes sense when you have a lot of city driving, a lot of, you know, maybe like, let's say, US highway speeds maximum. But for German Autobahn, then the GLC EQ really plays out its advantage. Yeah, and that gives us then the overall summary. Design, you can always argue what's your personal preference, but the riding itself is much more comfortable with the GLC EQ because more silent with the insulated windows, also better dampened, let's say, against sunlight with the lamination in the windows, and also the air suspension ride is so much more sophisticated. The rear X steering also helps a lot, and this efficiency, especially at higher speeds, on the cost of that the battery is smaller than with the iX3. So the iX3 has the bigger battery, a little bit quicker charging, feels maybe a little bit more connected to the driver. However, the riding then is definitely rougher from a suspension, but you should go for the comfort seat, then you have the best seating overall. Yeah, and then summing up, it's really tough to say because I love both vehicles and I would take both in a heartbeat, and there still goes recommendation out to both of them. However, bottom line, when you are willing to pay the extra price, there's 10,000 euro extra, and that can also mean a couple of €100 more in the leasing rate, then the GLC EQ would be mine, also our favorite pick here today, because that air suspension comfort and also the calmness at higher speeds from the better noise insulation and so on was really the convincing factor that we would say, hey, especially in Germany where we go also at least 130 kilometers an hour on the motorway, then the range difference is shrinking a little bit and we could actually live with that. Nevertheless, considering the battery size, it's still a good deal and it's a great ride, the iX3. And when they soon offer the seat ventilation and also the adaptive suspension, it becomes even better. And you also have to think about that this one here has the 130 kilometers an hour hands-off, and the assistance system application is the best overall on the market at the moment in iX3 and i3, and soon also in the iX5, for example. Whereas here with the assistance systems, Mercedes are good, but not on the level like BMW is. And soon we also expect that they maybe also add then this hands-free feature. So you can see both have their distinctive feature, but the overall winner for us today is the GLC EQ. But doesn't mean that we still would also recommend the iX3, no doubt about that. Today we are driving the very much anticipated Volvo EX60. Is it a real electric XC60? And how does it compare to its main rivals? For example, the BMW iX3, the Mercedes GLC EQ, or the Audi Q6 e-tron. Today with the first consumption real-world range test here, where we can test it for you on Spanish motorways. And we're also going to dig deep into exterior, interior, comfort, and of course the whole technology. Everything you need to know about the Volvo EX60 here with Thomas and Autogefuehl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with our Forest Lake color, and I really have been digging deep into my wardrobe to find the Forest Lake something. I think it fits quite well, definitely. And yeah, very interesting color. Of course, there are more colors available, also bright ones and so on. Then we have this Thor's Hammer style daytime running light. The main headlamp unit is underneath. And there we have either already matrix LED or the so-called pixel LED, which even gives you more functionality. And I think a rather traditional Volvo look. They don't want to have a more screaming outlook here, and that's totally fine. And also from the exterior at least says, yeah, that could just be an electric XC60. The length is 4 meters 80, 189 inches, and wheels from 20 to 22 inch, and these are the 22 inch wheels, the biggest ones that are available. Interesting to know is that the 20 inch wheels are the smaller ones, like from the width. And when you go then to the 21 or the 22, they both have the wider width of 255 in the front and 265 in the rear. So consumption-wise, definitely makes a difference if you stick with the 20 inch. However, the higher trim levels, which most probably will go for, is automatically combining then here the larger wheels, at least the 21, and then you're already at the same width than the 22. Suspension-wise, you start with the standard suspension, which already gets frequency selective dampening, so that it's not like really an active adaptive suspension, but passively adaptive. But this one here optionally is equipped with the adaptive suspension, so we're going to test that one for you today. And optional, you can get the cross-country. Like the delivery times are definitely later for that one, but the cross-country will offer air suspension, but only for the cross-country model. Then here in the rear you have also somewhat typical Volvo, taking the citation from the past SUV models, but then a little bit more modern interpretation of the light signature. And this one in here says EX60 P10 AWD Ultra. So what does that mean? There is the P6, which would be the entry-level battery, and with rear-wheel drive you get 80 kilowatt hours net in the battery figure. Then this one here, the P10, is 92 kilowatt hours battery net capacity, always talking the net values here. This one then all-wheel drive, one the motor in the rear, one in the front. 4.6 seconds in the acceleration figure. And if you want an even bigger battery and also sub 4 seconds in the acceleration figure, then there is the P12, which is at 112 kilowatt hours net. That's even then a little bit larger than the BMW iX3. However, here the P10, rather in the range of the battery size of a Mercedes GLC EQ. There again, the delivery times for the largest battery are a little bit longer at this moment when we are filming the video. So far most customers have been opting for the P10 to don't have to wait so long for the vehicle. In charging, I really like this manual charging flap, which is really large, also protects a little bit against rain, and you can have the cable from both sides. AC, 11 or 22 kilowatt charging is already included, 22 in the mid trim, like from the plus trim, so that's also included here. And then the DC in the all-wheel drive models up to 370 kilowatt DC peak. And then we have 16 minutes, 10 to 80% state of charge with this 800 volt architecture. That's pretty cool here for the P10 as well. It would be 19 minutes then for the largest battery like this 112 kilowatt hour battery. So very quick in charging, definitely. So you've maybe read the news that in 2025 Volvo even had a net loss, and they also lost some market share, not too many sales. Transition to electric mobility is, definitely a tough thing. There we go. Talking about the door handles very soon. Now they're open. This is an own topic very soon. I can promise. So yeah, on the one hand, net loss, less sales and so on. Of course, struggling also with the US tariffs. Then of course the Chinese business is a little bit tougher on all the manufacturers except the Chinese ones. Yeah, but at the same time, this one here is super successful. So they can't even keep up with the demand of the EX60. So the question then is if the EX60 can really get Volvo out of this situation. And there we go. Yeah, there's always, because here the Volvo logo always points to where you can open then the frunk or the engine and so on. In this case then the frunk. Very important here, the yellow line marks the maximum loading height for this frunk. And yeah, this can house something more than a cable, but not exactly a suitcase or something. Yeah, so this will be super interesting how this one will drive, especially in also our first consumption test here today. And yeah, indeed a car that can really turn things around for Volvo again, considering how much people like it at this moment already. And these compares I've been talking about, iX3, GLC EQ, Audi Q6 e-tron, everyone is focusing on these vehicles here at the moment because this is a segment which is highly popular among the SUV and electric, and combined the electric SUV segment because they're not too large, they're not too small, they have already the big batteries, deliver good range and so on. So these are really vehicles in that premium segment where people say, hey, I switch from a combustion engine to an electric vehicle and stay there. And now it's, I already switched clothing because of the interior. The interior is a little bit brighter than the exterior, that's one of my hobbies. So now it's time to talk about the door handles, because obviously here there's nothing. Designers love it because then this area here is super clean. But the question is always, I'm a fan of the design principle of form follows function. And the meaning of that is that the function is always more important than the form, because the form follows the function. Yeah, it's about design history class. And here the thing is, we have this small fin here. And in contrast to flush door handles, which disappear and come out again, at least these here are always out. That's the good part of it. But then there's like a button behind and you can press it. You can also hear that. And then you maybe hear the button press, and then you hear the unlock mechanism. And Volvo says that underneath here, what you cannot see, this has like a form of like this almost. So it's really like a massive piece underneath, so that firefighters could actually also really move that part without it getting ripped off. Then again, my question is, firefighters with large gloves, do they want to use the tip of their fingers? And then I don't think so. So a classic door handles will always be better to use and will always be safer. Ask your local firefighter about this. However, Volvo has ensured that even in case of a crash where there's maybe electric lost something, there's like a dual safety mechanism behind it, that it's always supposed to be unlocked automatically and it still works. That's what Volvo says. And I also believe them, of course, but still I think that the classic door handle approach is better somehow. And what I also found out is, we have the frameless windows here, which are pretty cool. And also here in the ultra trim, the top trim, we have the lamination. So this is then better soundproof, and is even here for the rear window. So that's actually pretty cool. Not all cars in that segment have that. Does anyone have that on both front and rear? The iX3 doesn't have it at all. The GLC, I think, has it in the front. The Audi Q6, I gotta recheck that actually. Here, another thing is like when you pull down the windows completely, it goes like this. But then when you close the door, it goes down fully. And then when you open the door, when the window is down, which might happen at some time as well, then you press it and then you know, for example, it's stuck. There we go. And then here the window goes up a little bit. And now it's stuck in the middle position. Yeah, there we go. And then you see, you know, just when you try around things, you know, and I wouldn't say that when we test cars that these situations are so unusual. There are situations where the windows are down and then you open the car again and then you have to be like, you have to put your fingers away quite quickly, you know. So just to show you a different situation where that might come a little bit unhandy. And I think some of you said in the studio episode, like, who has asked for this? No one, of course. And now it gets even worse. Soon we will reveal to you, and yeah, maybe it's already revealed if you watch this video at a later stage, but another big competitor of Volvo will go for the same solution. This virus is spreading. I can already tell you so far, but I'm not allowed to tell you which car it is. But yeah, stay subscribed always on Autogefuehl, then you'll soon know. Yeah, so now I presented all the pros and cons about this solution. As I said, designers love it. Users might not. Yeah, it's not too complicated, I have to say, but I would have wished for something else. But then here, the inside of the doors, this is all the way very soft, clean design. Here also with some perforation. Then you have 4 window levers. And this is actually, then I think this is formed for this function. This is an electric unlock, yes. But then the manual unlock is also in the same position. That's how it's done, you know. Pretty slim door pockets, but they are covered. So this is not hard black plastic. This is here even soft, dampened underneath. So that's very, very cool. The only hard part is then this lower here. And you can also go for a darker interior if you like. But the bright one is really cool to look at. Dual tone also for the steering wheel. This is also an animal-free material, feels nice. It's a super small steering wheel for such a car in that size. Then real buttons at the steering wheel, here for the cruise control left side. This is a small favorite button where you can deactivate the EU speed chime law, for example, easily. Right side for the volume and for music next and back. Also important to know because the GLC EQ does not have that. You cannot skip a music title on the steering wheel in the GLC EQ. It's not possible. They didn't think of that somehow. And I also love the Scandinavian approach of having the matte wood here also in the front part. That looks cool, some fabric hues. And the instruments, they move further away. And this is also interesting if we compare these competitors, where we have the GLC EQ, which has all the screens in one layer. Then we have the iX3, which puts this infotainment closer to you and the panoramic vision very much away. And this is kind of in between. So they also say, hey, we don't need head-up display because the instruments are so rather long focus already. Very interesting. Then the seats. So this is the so-called Nordico perforation, also with cooling. It's a high-grade leatherette. From the softness, I have to say, on the seat itself here, the iX3 is softer. But here, for example, in the head restraint, this is then way softer, but I think they want to make this one softer for your head, and then maybe here a little bit firmer, maybe for durability reasons or so on. But in the comfort, I mean, all of these competitors are comfortable in the seating position, and the base ergonomics is also good. Here again, I feel that the iX3 has the upper hand because the base ergonomics of the seat is the best, and also the softness of the leatherette is actually the best. And
the fabric was more softer.
Yes, indeed. Good point with Leah. The cross-country version offers a blue fabric seat that is even a little bit more comfortable, I feel. So yeah, maybe also look out to that. But yeah, I mean, it's still on a good level, just comparing the different competitors. And the Mercedes, we will soon do like another long-haul road trip episode with the Mercedes GLC EQ. Also do direct head-to-head comparisons, GLC EQ versus the iX3. And then we also test the seats of the Mercedes again. If maybe they're a little bit better than these ones or comparable, we'll see about that. And also if you want us to do a head-to-head comparison with this one here, with the Volvo EX60, tell us in the comments which one would you rather be looking out for to, like Volvo EX60 versus iX3 versus GLC EQ, the Audi Q6, like which would be like the main head-to-head figure? Tell me in the comments. And then you start searching, how can I control the steering wheel? And there they go, this Tesla approach that you select it in the infotainment system, and then you move it here with the like with the volume and music title approach. And then of course it's saved then to your user account. I'm more a fan of classic solutions than here, maybe even a manual control, but at least you can save it to your user account, and then it should also always be in that case. And yeah, I almost feel like I'm in a computer game because the steering is so small. Actually, it's pretty funny. This is the app, by the way. So this works also as a key fob, and you can also use the preconditioning and so on, that you have a first impression of how it looks like. And now there are many interesting aspects about this cockpit. First of all, this one always gets a glass roof. An option, you can get the electro shade here. So it's like PDLC technology, either closed or see-through. That doesn't change the heat that's coming in. That is always inbuilt in that glass roof, but as I always say, no matter what they tell you, a glass roof will always make the car hotter instead of if you could go with a fixed roof. Some cars like the iX3 offer the option, either go fixed roof or glass roof. Other manufacturers like Volvo or also like Mercedes say you always get the glass roof, and then you switch to the option of, hey, you want to have this digital shade or not. Yeah, about that. Headroom here, by the way, is no problem. So there's plenty of space with one A9 And by the way, also here, this sun visor is extendable. That's also a nice option to like cover this area here. This sometimes might that be a very good idea. Also, not only on the outside, but also on the inside here, the mirrors are frameless. That's always a classy option. Looks cool, and that's actually also form follows function. And they have this clean Scandinavian design with the living room fabric atmosphere here, for example. Then the matte wood, which is the my most favorite part on this one. Here the Bowers & Wilkins system, 28 speakers. The Bose has 21 speakers, and Leah and I have been testing the sound system already, and it's a really great system. And you actually have different sound settings as well. And for example here 3D surround, but too intense is too much. I would just leave it in the standard setting, and it has a really good like surround sound overall. It even works better than, of course, with Dolby Atmos, but you always need the source for that. So this one is among our top list of these sound systems. At this moment, there's just one that comes above that. And that is the Burmester system in the Porsche or in the Mercedes. The Mercedes GLC EQ has that, for example. We have a CLA at this moment at home as well, where we test the Burmester system, and that it's like goosebumps all over the place. And it would say like this one then comes directly behind it. So this is like our current sound evaluation. Maybe you have not noticed yet, or did you? Tell me in the comments. Here, the screen is a little bit curved, but usually manufacturers do it like this. But this one is curved like this. So this is further away, this is further away, and the middle one is the highest part, let's say it that way. And the reason is that when I hear from the passenger side, change the temperature, for example, and from the driver's side, then you can like easier see and access this, so to speak. And what's also interesting here, this is like the climate menu. Yes, these vents are also digital now. There's another dis-ease in the automotive industry. I think not really necessary to make them digital. I feel at least that way. Cool is that we have here, mentioned earlier, the seat ventilation that also works together with the seat cooling and steering wheel heating, so that also works simultaneously if you want it in wintertime. And this really blows quite a lot, and is also needed then for hot summer temperatures and so on. And this at least is now in the first stage, so I don't have to click something first and then, but here I can directly access the climate unit. I would prefer physical, but here at least the volume jog here is physical, and also here again next music title and so on. And this whole area is also beautifully done with the matte wood. We also have here this Android backend, you know, Google based, and there, for example, with the adaptive suspension here, adjust the suspension in firm or soft or standard. Also can change one pedal driving to low, high recuperation or auto, like a cruise control, and if you want to have it creeping forward or not. So you can all adjust that. Standard on performance acceleration. So these are the most important controls right there. And there's also the Google Maps inbuilt GPS. So most of the things then you need are already right here. They will also offer Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. It's not in this beta version here yet, but they will offer that. They also claim that the Gemini integration is working very well. I will not say, hey, famous search engine now, because it will trigger some of your phones when you're using Android, but I will use the button here on the steering wheel and
search for good vegan places in Barcelona.
Oh, that's a good idea. Like that. Tell me about some nice vegan restaurants in Barcelona. Let's see about that. There's not too much signal here though. Just a moment. It is just a little, yeah, so it's not that quick because
Barcelona has a fantastic vegan scene. Here are a few top-rated spots for something special. Raso Terra in the Gothic Quarter offers an incredible plant-based fine dining experience. If you're looking for a casual vibe with great views, Blue Bar in Poblenou is popular for its vegan pizzas and sandwiches right near...
Yeah, we'll listen to that later on. I don't want to bore you with that now. But that's actually pretty cool. So a good natural integration. And they also think about it like you're on the road and pass something. Oh, what is that bridge? How is it maybe... what it's called or something, and this will also work. So this is a very good integration, and it once again shows that so many manufacturers try to do that themselves and they always fail. And you know, the big tech companies, they just can't do it, you know. And then Volvo from the beginning on said, hey, let's just take Google on board, and that's it. And it works very well. And also the charging stop recalculation and so on will be done here in the car inbuilt GPS, of course. Yeah, that's very interesting. And I told you earlier, the instruments are also very well to see. They are more on the front there. And then indeed, you don't necessarily need the head-up display then, because it's, you know, far enough away. And then you also have the map integration here in the instruments that works too. And here, by the way, park and then reverse and drive. So that's the way you put it in. If Leah closes the door on the passenger side, we can also see the last black area there. So it's actually, yeah, quite nice from resolution, 360 degrees. These donuts were not done by us, by the way, just to mention that. So yeah, so overall, I think like the whole orientation here makes sense. But they do use a lot of unique features indeed, and more are coming up here in the middle console, because first of all, here there's lower part. This is like a felt use. Not sure how this one will look over time. I hope it will hold up well. And by the way, here on the outside, it's not that you see it in the wrong way. It is kind of like with these purple elements on the inside. Not sure if you can see that on camera. And then we have this middle console. You cannot fold it up, but you can press it in here. Then it comes forward. Then you can put some bottles in here. These are these rubber lips. And if you don't want to have that, want to get rid of it, then you can also put them in again and then have like this open space. And then you can pull it backwards again and open it once again like this. Yeah, also interesting solution. And there is no glove box here on the right side. It's softly dampened here, but no glove box, but you have it in the middle. And here on top part, there's one inductive charging pin in this black hole here, also ventilated, and right next to it you can just put your phone. And this is basically in the middle glove box, and yeah, small cubby hole right there, more space underneath. And then they thought about the following here. So, oh, Leah found some not sure you can see it, some spiders here in the cabin. They are also watching our car review. So yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure if you can see it on camera, but yeah, maybe you want to accompany the small spider outside. Yeah. Or shall I do it? Maybe.
1 second here.
So Spidey.
Spidey.
So now that we slowly accompanied Spidey outside, I can plug in here. 18 watt, 60 watt, so 60 watt on the right side. And then I thought of this solution. I can put the cable right in here, close this middle glove box again, and then I can plug it in right there and then put the smartphone there. And I mean, to be even cleaner, I could maybe do it like this. Even like take the top part. So yeah, like this. So then now I have like a very clean solution, but I still have the cable connected because 60 watt is of course stronger than the inductive charging pad and also doesn't overheat that quickly. Yeah, why not? Interesting solutions here, definitely also for the middle glove box. Really, really looking forward to your feedback on these. Here, by the way, you can see in all doors, all four, this is also like the integrated handle from the inside, but it's a little bit, maybe not in the, yeah, it's in the right position when you really reach out far. You know, the closer you get, the wronger the position is, so to speak. But yeah, you get along with that, definitely. And yeah, pretty cool that we have the lamination also in the rear windows. And what will be super crucial when we start driving the vehicle, Volvo not only uses this passive noise cancellation, but also rear active noise cancellation. We know that from some vehicles. In the recent Mercedes Maybach S-Class facelift, they took this feature away because they said we rather focus on passive dampening again. The Ford Kuga is even using that, and Volvo has been using that here now in the EX90, also in the ES90, the sedan, and here also in the EX60. And there's always the discussion between, does it sound unnatural when you use active noise cancelling? Because to me, when you use the in-ear phones or like the iPods or something like that, I think it's cool, especially when you are in the plane and so on. But in cars, I sometimes wonder when you're like in an area, I sometimes have the feeling with active noise cancellation that's almost like a vacuum next to your ear. And on the one hand, it's super silent. On the other hand, it might feel unnatural. So I'm looking forward to how it behaves with this car here now today. So I'm skeptic, yes, as usual with many things. That's my job. But we'll tell you more about it when we drive it very soon and then also rate it. Then here in the rear, well, there's enough space to the roof, and yeah, you feel how hot the roof is getting. So even if they have this shield inside, it's always hotter then. And then space here to the seat in the front is fine, enough space. And this is, by the way, here also like everything is like a soft padding. So it's also nice that nothing is really hard. Position here, you can see there's the battery underneath. You see that, you know, in the XC60 my feet would be lower, but since this one here is an SUV, it's not as bad as in the sedan. Like in the ES90, it's like this, you know, because the feet are even higher. But here I think it's fine. In the middle console you have USB-C charging. Once again, 18 watt left, 60 watt on the right. You have this thing you can put out maybe for cleaning or so. In the top part, you also have seat heating for the rear seats in the Ultra trim here. It's like a package, I think, even in the Ultra trim. And then we can fold down this here. It's like a extended middle console with rubber lips here as well. It's actually pretty nice, and it goes even more luxurious than this. First of all, these ones you can fold up. They also may go down, and this is like the softest area here, so it's really nice and comfortable if you really put your head back there. It's pretty cool. And they also go down then when you fold the seats. I can show it to you here as well. So yeah, then they automatically go down. And you also have this really luxury feature, electric control here of the back part. So there we go. You can move it back, or you can also move it forward. This is more like a maybe cargo position or something like that for the rear, for the trunk. Up to like this, and then you can also see the difference. And the same goes also with the other side. So it's like a 2/3, 1/3 split then in that respect. Child seats, ISOFIX here on the side, and you also have this premium covering. You can put it up and then you can install them right there. Were there actually ISOFIX on the front seat? No, doesn't look like that. No, so that's then here on the outer rear seats. But overall, yeah, I think also well usable here in the rear. Trunk or boot at 520 liters, and there are some surprises there. Let's dig deeper into that, literally, because here you have this split here that you can access the lower part, and here, for example, we have this bag. This could be a charging cable in there or not, and you can of course lift it out. And on the other side here, you have this one. This is also interesting, like maybe for the beach, you can put some wet clothes in there, or whatever. And of course you can use it. Is it maybe even fitting a suitcase? I'm not sure. I mean, we had to find out, right? So that's what we do. And of course you can you hold this for a second, thank you. So you can also put it like this, that it stays there. And yeah, I mean, almost. I mean, if you push it down a little bit, so that's interesting. Why not? So yeah, pretty cool finding. Then you have seen that it also fits here underneath, no problem. With this cover, then here you put it like manual, like this here with the side rails, and then you have it this, but you cannot like lift it out. You know, you can lift the whole thing up. Then you have some space here. But you cannot like remove it entirely. It's like fixed here, and then we can fold the seats. The good thing is that we have a remote unfold. So here, right and left. There we go. Obviously wants to be held a little bit longer. There we go, and then also it takes some time to fold down finally. Then so there we go, and I think then it needs maybe like a last push right there. Yeah, so these buttons here don't seem to be that reactive, maybe because when we test the vehicles they are very early production ones, so let's see if that one improves over time. And then here we have a 1.40 m in width to the second seating row. We have also 1.40 m, and then we have about 28 inches, 70 centimeters in the height right here, and the total length we are at, it's like 73 inches or 1.85 meters. So yeah, quite happy with the trunk. Are you as well? And pricing is actually very interesting. 66,000 euros. Here the mid-trim level battery, like the, which is already, you know, not really small, the 92 kilowatt hours. And then at 72,000 euros, the biggest battery. And then you can maybe add some 5, 6, 7,000 euros on options, so that you're roughly between 60 and 80,000 euros. And that is indeed a little bit lower than the competition models if you look at the comparable specs and so on. And the leasing prices, I checked them before, are also a little bit lower than the BMW iX3 and the Mercedes GLC EQ in many cases. So it's very interesting indeed. Why can they do that? They belong to the Geely Corporation, a large Chinese manufacturer that, you know, years ago bought Volvo, also owns Polestar, Zeekr, Lynk & Co, the Geely brand itself, for example, and Lotus as well. They are more like this Chinese Volkswagen group. You know, VW has Skoda, Audi, Seat, Cupra, VW, blah, blah, blah. And now it's time to drive. Now we start driving the Volvo EX60, and we have found this B or even C road, which is kind of bumpy and really narrow and so on. We want to see how it performs there, also suspension-wise. At the moment, I've set the suspension to soft, and we do have the 22-inch wheels. So the, let's say, the most uncomfortable wheel combination there would be for driving this vehicle. And considering it has the 22-inch wheels and no air suspension. And no air suspension. This one only the actively adaptive suspension, but that one is doing a very good job. I would also say less rough than the BMW iX3. Of course, the Mercedes GLC EQ has the air suspension, so there we would need to compare the GLC EQ when it has then the air suspension against the Volvo EX60 Cross Country. But the GLC EQ is of course also available without the air suspension, so that one would be the direct comparison to this one then here. But I think here even some roots in the ground. Oh, this one, have you heard that? Like this area sometimes doing a rattling effect. I think with when yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe when there are like temperature changes. Pothole now, but this is actually really nice. Yeah. So here then intentionally put it to the softer setting. It's getting quite hot in here. Then I can also, for example, boost up the seat cooling. Level 3 is quite loud actually. Yeah, maybe we have to. Yeah, sometimes it's a little bit complicated to do that while driving. So this might end up in being you have to use the auto function. And then back to the I can, yeah. That's also a nice shortcut, yeah, definitely for that. Then we can also accelerate out a little bit. So we can, for example, set the performance acceleration and put the suspension to a little bit firmer when we do some sporty driving. Let's see about that. The first one I get onto the road actually just for safety purposes. So it's too dangerous to do that actually from the cornering. So now we can do some acceleration. Let's go from rolling start. that was 20 to 90. Oh, that even triggered the Lear meter. So yeah, this one here, 4.6 seconds in the acceleration figure, 0 to 100. Definitely more than enough. This 3.9 you get in the P12. Yeah, it's not really needed. So this is yeah, definitely more than fast enough. Here now, suspension firm. I wouldn't say that it's now like suddenly a super sports car or something. You do feel it's a little bit firmer. Maybe not the biggest difference. What's your impression in here? Also in the corners, passenger? Yeah, so it's okay.
Good, yeah.
So there's always a good factor if Lear is maybe getting sick in some like heavy electric vehicles, but here it's obviously not the case, although we're doing the cornering. So although the suspension is giving us good comfort, we have still a sporty setup in the way of that it's fun to drive. Steering is super small, as I said. It's more like computer game alike. You can also... Why is the steering control not in this menu?
I don't know. That's weird, right?
Listen.
Steering assists? Here it is.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe because people don't change it that often or something, that could be the solution. So here you can also set it to firmer. Then you have a little bit more feedback from the steering. And I would prefer that setting because otherwise I feel it's actually pretty soft. Yeah, and I definitely prefer this firmer setting of the steering. But yeah, that's again the thing. You should only set these things once because it's always distracting to look at the screen and while driving. So yeah, very, very careful with that, definitely. But I mean, here the suspension setting is even in the firm setting is fine, but you can have it soft or you can also leave it on standard. And we already hear that, soon going to the motorway and so on, but already here, it's super, super silent. And that is the combination of laminated windows plus the active noise cancellation. And I'm not 100% sure. There are some situations where you just see like, wow, I really enjoy this super silent atmosphere. And sometimes then you have this effect of, oh, there's like a vacuum against my... or something, or you have an earplug in, or maybe sometimes when you have a cold, you know, and then like this wave from your ears to your mouth is a little bit, you know, closed or clogged, so to speak, then you get sometimes this feeling. And maybe it also has to do with your inner ear pressure. It's really strange because we drove the same way like 2 hours ago to our review location or something, and then I felt it more. Now we're going back this way, and at this moment I feel a little bit less.
You're getting used to it? I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. So I have no idea. Maybe it also depends on the situation, or maybe you.
Maybe there is someone with a Volvo.
Good question. Yeah. Or maybe it's about your blood pressure or something. I don't know. Yeah, it's very interesting. What I can say, however, is that you can definitely not shut this down. It's not possible to cancel this in any way. So you're definitely stuck with it. And it's also connected even with the Bose system. So, and even the base one, like if there will be like a core model at some point, it will also have that. By the way, let's just turn around here and see about that. Reverse. It's not too hard actually. Then of course the light steering helps. Wheels could turn in a little bit more, I have to say. I'm not sure if with the rear-wheel drive version, then the front wheels can maybe turn in a little bit more. That might be possible. But it's very easy to ease this car around. And so it's a relaxing atmosphere, definitely defined by this super, super silent ride with this connection of passive and active noise cancelling. So at this moment, I'm actually fine with it, but I also had situations where I said like, maybe it feels a little bit unnatural. So maybe I have to drive this car a little bit longer to find out more about that, and also how it behaves then soon on the motorway. Here we can do some more agile driving for you, definitely. Yeah, this is like the...
was it off?
It was actually off.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
What's this beeping? Yeah.
This is like when like a new speed sign is being recognized.
Okay.
But I guess this can be also be deactivated in the menu, and this
so too, yeah.
this should be last mode as well. You know, transverse bump. It's actually nice.
Yeah,
So
good, yeah.
very happy with the suspension and also how the car is behaving in the driving here. So a good compromise between comfort and sportiness. Here once again this B or C road. Also smooth as for the power delivery when you accelerate out of the corners, and it is very easy to handle here with that small steering wheel. It's also something you can get used to. I would have the firm steering feedback setting, but maybe Leah also prefers, when it's a little bit softer here, a little bit tight in the corners. Super ease in the handling, and that's also a big difference to the Volvo EX90, that this one here feels so much lighter and more agile. Nice vignette here. And also, if you ask me about Volvo XC60, like the standard combustion engine model, this one here is so much better in driving, so much better. So there's, this one is really fun to drive. The XC60 is a great car, definitely, but it's meanwhile a dated platform, and this one feels really more refined in driving. I say, although it's heavier with the battery and so on. The BMW iX3 was switching between German and
cool
English.
Name.
iX3, yeah, that would be cool, German English name. The iX3 is, let's say, even more a driver's car, stiffer from suspension. We haven't driven the adaptive suspension there yet because only the base one is available. That is, let's say, a little bit more engaging, even more in the drive. The GLC EQ, as I said, with the air suspension, is more floaty, but also drives very, very well. And the Audi Q6 e-tron, this is a system also of a Porsche Macan, and at least what we discussed is that in the Q6 e-tron and in the Porsche Macan, we more had the effect that Leah got sick on the passenger seat. Just, I don't know, maybe from the platform and the chassis. We had the same from the related platform with the Porsche Cayenne recently as well. So there I see the other platforms from the other manufacturers a little bit ahead in that respect. Because especially when you have these electric vehicles that accelerate pretty nicely, it's always also about how does it feel for the passenger. And once again, it drives extremely well, very happy with the drive, silent, relaxed, but at the same time, also sportier than expected. So to me, together with the new small electric one, the EX30, the very, very tiny one, very nice and sporty driving feeling.
Yep, thumbs up.
Thumbs up, definitely in driving. But now, of course, we're not done yet. Motorway is coming up, and on the motorway, of course, we'll do a first consumption test. And now it's time for the motorway here in Spain today. So we're starting at 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, and it's again super silent because of this combination lamination windows and the active noise cancelling. And I'm really gonna say that at lower speeds, it's to me more unpleasant, the active noise cancelling. The higher you draw, the higher the speed is. So that's what I want to say. Like the higher the speed is, the more natural it feels, basically, because of like the normal wind noise is still picking up on the outside a little bit. But here, 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, it's a very good traveling speed, and it's actually so silent, so relaxed that Leah just closes her eyes and starts sleeping. That's something, right? That's really something.
That's black smoke there.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's old Nissan. What is it, like Nissan Pathfinder?
Get our TÜV in Germany.
Well, no, the TÜV in Germany would say no. Yeah, so super silent experience here, definitely on the motorway. And the adaptive suspension again is doing a good job, and one of the very rare cars where 22-inch wheels would be okay. So that's very astonishing. And as I said earlier, to me the interesting thing was also that this was more comfortable than expected, and at the same time it also drives in a way sportier than I would have expected. So that really speaks for the vehicle, and here I was doing also a good job on the motorway. I can also change through the modes a little bit like this. At the moment we're still with suspension soft. Not sure how it would behave in here when I go to firm. It's still definitely drivable. It's not that it would become uncomfortable now. If there's maybe like a very fast motorway situation, that could make sense in a way. Here at the moment, like the asphalt is very well done, very nicely built. There's not much stuff on the road or some potholes or something like that. So here maybe firm is even good for the passenger, but that could work. Yeah, but you don't feel the biggest difference. Here now, let's do like a lane change here as well at 1 kilometers an hour. very calm, doesn't shake much to the left or the right. So really good setup as for that. Lane keeping assist can be a little too heavy in intervening from time to time. Let's say that. But you can also deactivate it quite quickly with these. Oh, that was like another. Not sure if it's the wood itself or like the carrier underneath, but some things are sometimes rattling when you are going over some bumps. That's the thing. Then we can also set the cruise control here, left side, and so now it should also keep us in the lane actively. Let's see how it does it, and if it's doing it in a smooth way or hectic way. So here, just to show you that I'm not steering, and yeah, there are some corrections left and right. It's always a good indicator then if Leah really feels that I'm not. Oh, there's a great lighting in the tunnel, also through the panoramic roof. That's cool. So would you say that's smooth to you? Now it's doing a little bit left, right. I would say it's fine, but it's maybe not on the highest level. Yeah.
iX3 is still a little bit better, yeah.
And here, when I put in the turning indicator, it also does a semi-automated lane change here. One more time.
It's smooth, yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, that's nicely done. So it always shows like some arrows in the instruments then where it can actually do that, to which direction. And here the difference is just that when you do that with BMW or Mercedes, these brands want you that you tip the turning indicator like this. And here, in order to do the lane change, you really have to pull them in completely and not tip them. That is important to know, otherwise you might get confused when you change from brand to brand in that respect. Yeah, but here also, once again, in the tunnel where it's usually quite loud, super silent. And this side a little bit darker as well. Yeah, third outfit here for today, and well, it's nice weather, definitely around 20 degrees Celsius, around 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 22-inch wheels, and the middle battery, 92 kilowatt hours. So here, the 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, was 19 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometers, 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour, means a real world range of 480 kilometers or 300 miles for this mid-size battery. If you would take the biggest battery, even 590 kilometers or 370 miles. Then at 120 kilometers an hour, 75 miles an hour, we are at 22.5 kilowatt hours consumption per 1 kilometers or 2.7 miles per kilowatt hour. That would mean a real world range of 410 kilometers or 255 miles with the mid-size battery, and for the biggest battery would be even 500 kilometers or 310 miles. And these are comparable results, similar to what we had with the iX3. The iX3 was a little bit better with the 20-inch wheels in summertime, was a little bit worse with the 22-inch wheels, but that was when it was colder. So I would then suppose in the real conditions with the similar wheels, they come quite close. We have to do another test at 130 kilometers an hour, of course, when we are back in Germany, or maybe drive even a little bit faster. But so far, these are quite promising results. The Mercedes GLC EQ was even a little bit worse in our first tests. Soon we'll do another extensive test of the GLC EQ, and talk more about that. But indeed, these results so far are actually quite good, and I mean, you can get some decent range out of this vehicle, especially then if you would take the biggest battery. So if you really think in long-haul driving, and from the whole driving characteristics, this one seems to be, somewhat like a compromise between the iX3 and the GLC EQ. It's very interesting, and it drives really much sportier than expected, and much sportier than you would maybe expect from a Volvo SUV at that size. This was the biggest surprise here today. It is extremely silent also, due to this combination between passive and active noise cancellation. For me personally, it's maybe not an ideal thing. I always feel something artificial next to my ears, so you gotta test that before. But it can also be that you just say, like, I enjoy that it's so super silent, but I'm not the biggest fan of it, and I'm not also the biggest fan of the door handles, but at least maybe they are even a little bit better than just the flush door handles, And they have a lot of unique things here in the interior, very nice solutions there, also the good sound system, and overall the driving is actually, the best positive surprise here of today's test. And you really can say that, you know, in this area of the BMW iX3, GLC EQ, Audi Q6 e-tron, this one can easily play along with them and is also, you know, maybe going ahead in this field. So definitely many to consider there. The question is, which one should you take? It's of course also a lot about the personal preference, because they're all quite close in some respects, and also in the efficiency here, you know. So we will keep testing for you, definitely also the other ones. And yeah, since we are also, you know, Leah and I, we are also searching in that field here from these electric SUVs in this segment, it's definitely also one for us to consider, and we'll also ask for an offer there. So also interesting to compare different leasing prices, for example. But soon our iX3 versus GLC EQ comparison test is to come, and also with the long-haul road trip test of the GLC EQ. And then also looking forward to your comments. Which one should we compare to the EX60 here from Volvo? Which is like the closest pair do you see? You can already vote for that in the comments, and we'll keep you updated with these pair of vehicles, because yeah, that's really a very hot segment at this moment, and a good result here today already for the Volvo. This is here the Audi Q6 e-tron in a full driving review, specifically as the SQ6 e-tron, the most powerful version so far. And here was Thomas on Autogefuehl, 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with an in-depth look, also with the comparison to the Porsche Macan, sister or brother. How good is this one here in relation? And also, yeah, the Tesla Model Y, most sold EV in this world, most sold car overall in 2023. How does it relate to this one here? And does it justify the price you pay for this one? We'll find out everything together. Then here, the lamps. Really slim. You can actually pick different signatures, and also when you hit the turning indicators, it looks really spectacular. Different LED levels, a low LED trim, then a higher LED trim, which is already standard here for the SQ6, and then optional the matrix LED that you also see right here. Then you have this rather closed mask, but it's kind of mimicking the gaps you had before in the combustion engine versions. The Audi rings are two-dimensional here. And usually an SQ6 would come with a bright mask around, like here, everything, but it's blacked out because this one here is carrying a black package. This vehicle color here is Daytona gray. I think it also fits the vehicle very well, and will also be one of the most sold colors. Yeah, especially in Europe, in Germany, most cars are sold as gray or silver and as black. Yeah, that's the way it is. And then white, and then the rest of the colors. Wheels from 19 to 21 inch. The SQ6 would start 20 inch, and these here, the biggest ones, 21 inch. Still with these aerodynamic inserts. Yeah, some comments from the background as well. Then we have the painted wheel arches, and the length is 4.77 meters or 188 inches. So there is also the Q8 e-tron, but this one here is now on a dedicated EV platform, as I said, together with the Porsche Macan, hopefully bringing us some efficiency gains and so on. Suspension technology, as we continue on to the rear, is like a more classic building style, a classic SUV form. Oh, and by the way, I need to show you this right now, the charging flap. Oh, there we go. This is electric, and it takes ages, yes. AC, DC charging is an 800 volt charging infrastructure, so in that case, then you just need a little bit over 20 minutes from 10 to 80% state of charge, 270 kilowatt peak. That is very impressive. But if this charging flap really needs to be electric and it takes so long, I think a manual one would have done better, wouldn't it? Battery, by the way, 95 kilowatt hours net. Later on, we can also expect an 80 kilowatt hour net battery as a smaller, little bit cheaper entry version. So far, everything works with this battery. And if you come around to the other side, you'll see that we have a second charging flap actually on the other side. Now, sometimes maybe I have to open the car once more. There we go. Yeah. I'm not so sure about this. I mean, the great idea is that you get both sides as standard. That's the comment to that again. So, and here then on this side then only AC charging. Yeah, but it seems to be working a little bit more reliable than it did in the studio actually. Well, and then back to the vehicle, because first of all, this light strip here goes all the way across. So a very cool design. You can also once again get different stylings for that. The SQ6 and also an S-Line gets here this red S badge. Then if it's an SQ6, it also has then these, this S badging then here together. Acceleration figures, 4.3 seconds here for the SQ6. However, you also get the normal all-wheel drive version. That is then like 1.5 seconds slower. And there's also an entry rear-wheel drive version only. The exact figures and stuff, we have also always a pinned comment and in the video description where you always find these figures. Most German EVs do not have a frunk. Why? I don't know, but this one does have one. And that has to be the connection with Porsche, because here you can store a charging cable, or I would say even more. By the way, all versions go faster than 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour. This one here even 230 kilometers an hour. The SQ6, so like 140 miles per hour. So definitely also fast enough for the German Autobahn. Suspension technology. Base is a frequency adaptive damping. That means it reacts according to the impact it gets, like the frequency of the impact. That's the base suspension, even for the SQ6. And then optionally you get an air suspension. When you go for that one, in the SQ6 it has a sportier setup, and we will also test that for you here today. Rear axle steering, that's something that this one does not have. That one would be reserved for the Porsche Macan. Yeah, they want to have like a justification for the extra price for the Macan, that it does get some more tech features and so on. Also pretty cool, the light signatures, welcome and goodbye, front and the rear. It works for 3 times after each other when you open the vehicle. Usually it's just needed for 1 time, but after 3 times it basically has this play protection that the kids don't drain the battery with that, for example. So in the front you have this crystalline building up effect inside the headlamps. That looks really, really cool. Whereas in the rear you rather have this light strip that builds up, and then you have some more animation inside the rear lamp. And you can also set the individual settings for the signatures once again, as I told you earlier, in the infotainment system here. Now Leah is showing us 2 more exterior features. Look at that here in the lower part. There is the e-tron badge, and it is really imprinted, so you can actually feel that. And the model naming right here is in this B pillar. There you can read SQ6 e-tron Quattro. That's like the official naming for that one. So for Leah, I think with the styling, with the black features and stuff, yeah, that's probably to her liking. And another thing that Leah found out, so when you open the vehicle, of course, then there's also the turning indicator, but then there's an additional one here. When you open the door, then it goes 1 more time with the indicators there. See if it's also the case when you close the door.
I don't think so.
No. So it's like when opening the vehicle and opening the door, I think. Yeah, look at that here. Also when opening the door. Interesting. Getting to the interior, this is the key fob. It's light and also no high gloss black. I like that. Then door closing sound. That is awesome. So that is just how it's supposed to be. Double thumbs up actually for both front and rear door and inside of the doors. It's not too soft in the top part, I have to say. However, then there's a nice microfiber insert and red contour stitching here. S-Line and SQ6 are kind of similar. You have this S entry badge, but yeah, as I said, it could be S-Line or SQ6 the same. And then here, all hard pack, just this rubber underneath that things don't fly around that easily. Then steering wheel here with a flat bottom. That looks quite cool. And at the moment, everything is shut off, and soon it will come to life. Then this will be illuminated, and also here you see this whole curved screen there, all blacked out at the moment, but this will also come to life. And then the seats, so you get base fabric seats, but in Europe only. Then you have normal sport seats, and these are the performance sport seats, and these are also available with microfiber here. So for this respect here, a nice choice. The normal sport seats I feel would be a little bit more comfortable than these here, but yeah, the seating comfort ergonomics is actually quite decent. The only thing they do not offer yet is a completely animal-free interior. The best would be in Europe, the pure fabric seat or a fabric leather red mix. But then there are always animal parts in this vehicle here, and in a modern EV 2024 needs to find also an animal-friendly solution, definitely. And in here, 1.89 meters, a lot of headroom left, and the steering wheel when I turn on the ignition, or when I, sometimes when you just sit down or use the brake. You can see here, steering wheel can be adjusted up and down, in and out. And there you can see now also these sliders are illuminated. You can slide it, hashtag capacitive BS, but when you click it, at least, you also get a nice feedback. Cockpit perspective, here more microfiber on this dashboard. And then on the top part is also soft touch. Then we can get an optional passenger screen, otherwise it would be high gloss black everything here. I always ask myself, why would that be necessary? I don't understand it, but I got some comments, from some users that say when you pick something like in a navigation system, then the passenger sends it to the main screen or something like that. I always feel that passengers rather use their own smartphone to research like a restaurant nearby or something, but yeah, I don't know, you tell me. Then the screen unit here, there's like a 14.5-inch unit on the right side and a 12-inch unit on the left side. Zoom modules to that. In the lower part, middle console, 2 USB-C charger. Then there's like a smoker's pack here in the front part. Yeah, maybe not the best idea for such a new vehicle then for the resale value. And then here is an inactive charging pad. Sometimes it does lose contact, I feel. But the good thing is it is cooled, so the phone does not overheat. Then here you can close this one here for a lot of high gloss black. That does collect some fingerprints. Then you slide it open, and then adaptive cup holders here. And drive select, you click it. Then you either can click the drive modes through like this, or you can click once and then select it with your hand. So both is possible. You select the gears like this, D and R or P, and then this one here, the armrest, you can put that one up, then you have a lot of space underneath. Actually, there's even the first aid kit is hidden underneath here, so yeah, actually, why not? And this is your driver POV here with the 2-dimensional Audi rings on the steering wheel. You get used to that. However, I like it more when I really can touch the Audi rings. Digital instruments, here when I put in a gear, you can see them even better. And then you can switch the view to a more simplified view, or more information there. Also, what information you want to see there. So they are actually quite flexible, and the speed is usually then there in the lower part. And here you can set this favorite button actually to, for example, the function to deactivate this speed limit warning. So this is a good thing then for EU customers. You also get a head-up display here with some augmented reality arrows. Hard to catch on camera, they appear full-time, definitely. You might remember Tesla is offering these gaming features where you can actually turn the steering wheel inside a card game, which is on the display. Audi offers gaming via the head-up display. You activate like a space shuttle game, for example, or a 3D squash. Starting with the space shuttle. You see it here in the head-up display, there's this space shuttle, and then you use the shifting pedals and the accelerator pedal or the brake pedal to change, to maneuver that through. It's kind of funny. Is it much useful or much fun? I'm not sure about that, but yeah, they're trying to be a little bit more joyful with that. And then you can also use this 3D squash. And there we have this cage, and this is some kind of ping pong game. Once again, you use your shifting pedals for right and left, and then the throttle or the brake for up and down to put that ball over to the other side. And then here in the infotainment system, it is actually quite quick and responsive. Looks quite cool. The climate unit sometimes did me some hassle because I was doing something in the climate unit, and then I want to access the menu, and sometimes, yeah, like this, that's how it's supposed to work. But sometimes I clicked on the menu and it just didn't appear, and I have no idea why. So maybe they need to work a little bit more on the software, but it's something completely new indeed here. You have the chord keys right there. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto is of course also available here, wired or wireless, so both is available. So they stepped up the game here, although we had some problems with it, but overall definitely better than before. And then let's see if I put in Barcelona as a destination. So this would not be suitable here without charging. There, for example, here now in 256 kilometers, I should reload from 19 to 81%, and that's obviously it. Rear seats, here you can see manual shade. Then this is here on the top part. What is it? It's not, is it somewhat soft, but barely, I would say. Then here the microfiber insert. However, I have to say the microfiber quality I've seen better. There are different suppliers for microfiber, of course. And then here inside of the doors is also all hard pack. So for that price, I'm not so sure about that. Then here we also have the microfiber inside. The quality here on the seats is very good, actually, of the microfiber. And Isofix here with these covers, you can just push back that way. And then, yeah, legroom wise, I mean, it's an electric platform, but why is there hardly any legroom? I mean, it's not a short vehicle, so this is disappointing. It does fit for 4 toy adults, but barely. And always when I say barely, I always have to think of bears, you know, like bears, animal bears, you know, like barely. You know. Sorry about that. Okay, here 189 or 6 for 2. It's always like, you know, in general, you know, like with general. Okay. I just keep doing the, yeah, you know what I mean. Okay, so not too much space here, but headroom is okay. Then it's here like the adaptive cup holders. There we go. And we can also use this one here as a ski hatch to just load the middle stuff through. The seating comfort itself here on the rear seats, that one is actually pretty good when you are okay with this not so much space. And in the middle part here, 5th seat, it's a little bit stiffer. Works, but then the legroom is definitely the main problem. Different ways to open the electric hatch here. For example, also pressing twice here on the key fob. Then 530 liters up to 1,530 liters. This cover here is purely manual. Then there's a meter or 40 inches in width, and the length here is also a meter or 40 inches. I don't need to extend it actually. And here there's like the 77 centimeters or 30 inches. So yeah, well usable, not too large. You can see there's this step here, kind of it raises towards the inside, and then we can also fold the seats from here. It's good that we have this remote release. There we go. And then you see this step here once again. So this can be made flatter basically. And then here there's another storage also for several cables if you don't want to store them in the front, or some there, some here. And if you have the air suspension, you can also lower the whole thing here for an easier loading in and out. Then you can see that the air suspension then compresses here in the lower part a little bit. Drive select, dynamic. Let's go. Woo! That was 30 kilometers an hour to 100 kilometers an hour. Really quick here with the Audi Q6. So it's the most performant version here of this new large electric SUV by Audi. The official acceleration figure from 0 to 100 is 4.3 seconds actually. 4.3 seconds.
Ich habe das leider nicht verstanden. Kannst du das bitte wiederholen?
So that is when
Das habe ich leider immer noch nicht verstanden. Schau doch gern nach möglichen Sprachkommandos unter dem Reiter Hilfe in meinen Einstellungen.
Are you finished? Thank you. Back to our.
She's German.
Yeah. Totally German. Yeah. Yeah. That's always when you mention the brand name, and then you know it catches the activation word, and then you know with the voice recognition. But it always gives you the giggles and the laugh for that, definitely for sure. One major thing they want to achieve here with this vehicle is that it feels lighter than it actually is, because it is a heavy electric vehicle. These battery packs add a lot of weight. And one of the measures is here, when you turn the steering wheel actually, there's a fine command even if you are in this low degree angle, you know, areas. So you don't have to turn the steering wheel much. And the reason for that is mainly that a small vehicle usually reacts a little bit quicker to what you do with it, you know, and that kind of conveys this feeling. So a very progressive steering, you don't have to steer a lot. At the same time, it's not super aggressive that you know, don't manage a lane change or something. So when I'm here doing a lane change, for example, landing here, I can still very well control it and not, you know, overdo it or something. Let's see from driving modes. This is here dynamic mode. Pick the drive selecting. I can do it here in the infotainment, but yeah, though this is way lighter. So this makes a big difference indeed. And dynamic mode. You also heard it was rather silent on the interior, The only thing you probably heard were all lunch bags there back in the trunk. I put them in the trunk because I was I was expecting that. That's why I put it in the trunk and the cover closed. But yeah, you still hear them, especially in the electric vehicles when you don't have the rest of like an engine sound or something like that. Here on the motorway, you would rather keep it in the balance setting. And then also, it's a great noise insulation, really. Super silent in here. That is excellent. So
now I can sleep.
Yeah, I mean, you feel like this, silence from the electric drivetrain, and then the great insulation of the windows. I mean, we're driving 80 kilometers an hour, like 50 miles an hour. We're on the motorway, and it doesn't even feel like we're being on the motorway. I mean, yeah, for a German customer here, you might say, like, this is no motorway, this is no Autobahn. Yeah, because I was yesterday on the Autobahn with a petrol 6-cylinder from Audi, and was driving like 180 kilometers an hour. So there's a very good comparison then, how that feels like. And this here feels super, super, super smooth. And this is also something in comparison to the Porsche Macan. Although we have here the 21-inch wheels mounted, the biggest ones available, even optional for the SQ6, 20 to 21 inch, the normal Q6, 19 to 21 inch. And also here in the SQ6 we have a sportier setup of the air suspension. The air suspension, even an option for the SQ6, but then with a sportier setup. But if we then compare the Porsche Macan to it, I mean, they are on the same platform and they are on the technological side, more or less the same vehicle really. But they really feel way different than I would have expected, even here in the SQ6 trim. So the Audi is way more on the comfortable side, and although it has this performance, it is so much better in the driving comfort. That's nice here, and then the red siding. It's always good to see in the tunnel, especially when we have these driving. This was the blind spot monitor because the car was on the other lane before, then it switched. Especially good to see it in the tunnel then, because it doesn't seem to be on all the time. It seems to be connected to the daytime running sensor, but we have to check in the infotainment if you can also change that. Yeah, so back to the Macan comparison, SQ6. Here I feel like, yes, I have the power, but I'm rather using it for the stuff that cars are usually being used for, like, being smooth, motorway, on city traffic and so on. And with the Macan, I felt like I need to attack this all the time. At the same time, you lose comfort, And I think it's okay, because then you have the different brand positioning, because it's always tricky when cars are on the technological side basically identical. How can you differentiate them? Like we found it out here, the Audi is the cruiser. It is the more, like logical vehicle in that sense. The Macan more has these racing genes. And of course, for 99% of all customers, this setup here makes so much more sense. Plus, you save at least 10,000 euros or dollars in the entry price. But if you spec the vehicle, the difference between the Macan and the Q6 will be rather like 30, 40, 50,000 euros. So huge difference. So if you ask me, I mean, you do have the performance here, and also, like going left and right. I don't see any reason to go for the Macan unless you say, like, I want to lose comfort. You know what I mean? Yes, it feels sportier, but I think that's actually a problem for Porsche, So the more logical choice is definitely the Q6 e-tron, and the Porsche you would mainly go for the brand, like for the badge. That's just how I can comment on that. And I feel like one of the main findings is this very relaxing drive here. These seats here, I talked about them earlier. These are the the sports performance seats. The microfiber seating service is good. That's the good part about it. If you stick with the base sport seats, I feel they might also add some more comfort, because here with Audi, usually the sportier you go in the seat, the stiffer the bolstering itself is. But overall, so far, it's actually quite fine. Yeah, next to the aspect that they need to show us animal-free interiors, which Audi is still ignoring for most models. So that's something they need to work on. But I'm really very positively surprised how smooth it feels here on the Autobahn. I could just go on for miles and miles and miles, and will of course even be interesting, A, what will be the final consumption and also how agile it will drive. And before we leave the motorway, here the assistance systems. So let's just, leave the hands here. I'm supposed to keep him on the steering wheel, but just to show you how the car is following that bend here on the motorway in a very smooth way, very elaborated. We already heard the blind spot monitor, that's pretty cool. When I'm on the brakes, by the way, so the base recuperation is set rather to rolling. You can also go here to the B mode, then you have very strong recuperation if you like that. So it depends on which driving mode you just prefer. Other than that, you use your brake pedal to do the recuperation. And this is also really strong, up to 220 kilowatt. It can recuperate via these two electric motors. First, there's recuperation via the rear electric motor. Then when this is all used, then also via the front one, so the rear one reacts first. And then the rear braking power is applied. So in 90% of all situations, you will use the recuperation and not the rear brakes. And am I feeling that? Actually, no. And this is also a great accomplishment. You do not feel the difference when you are using the recuperation, when you're using the brakes. And this is one of the main challenges when designing electric vehicles and talking about the braking performance. And that means you can sometimes even recharge the car quicker, basically going down the hill than putting in the plug. It's also definitely a very fun fact. And this is a very good example here. This motorway is bending quite a lot. So that's a funny thing, that the top speed in Spain on the motorways is not really high in comparison to Germany. But when it is so narrow and that curvy in Germany, then in Germany the speed would be way lower. Funny, isn't it? And here, for example, no matter in which driving mode you actually are, here, even balanced or dynamic, here I have a little bit more feedback. I've also now deactivated the lane keeping assist to have a more natural driving feeling. That helps a lot, definitely, because when the lane assist is activated, then it tends to interfere, when you're doing some agile driving maneuvers and so on. But then when you deactivate it, which you can also do here with your left thumb, so you can either here press here, then with or without, like the adaptive driving system, with or without lane keeping, and if you press and hold, then it actually disappears completely, and then you can, steer this one way better, and it's so much fun because you really feel how smooth it goes in every corner. Easy Sport, launch control. Woo! Yeah, that was 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. That was even more fierce. So I was in dynamic mode, plus then, it's an electric vehicle. Also, you get here to the ESC Sport, so the stability control is drawn back a little bit, and then you can activate the launch control. One foot on the brake, one on the throttle. Of course, not meant to use it on public roads. Yeah, that one is really something. So, I mean, it doesn't look that much high performance on the outside, maybe even not that much like the Porsche Macan or something, but this is very much performance alike indeed.
It's enough.
Yeah, that's way more than enough indeed. Important is when you also do like some nice cornering, or also then when you want to drive a little bit faster on cornery motorways. I made the experience now once again that it's really important to deactivate that lane keeping assist, because it interferes quite a lot. So you don't have to do anything steering wise usually. But when you want to steer yourself, you really have to click and hold here on the left stalk column, that you completely deactivate the lane assist, and then you can freely steer how you like. So this is really very, very important in that respect. Pricing, we have the German ones for the reference, is just under 70,000 euros for the rear-wheel drive version, only 75,000 euros for the all-wheel drive version. And an SQ6, 94,000 euros. As it stands here right now, easily like 120k or something like that. So not cheap at all. However, way cheaper indeed, especially a configured one, than a Porsche Macan. So it's really like Porsche Macan, a fully spec'd turbo or something. You can also get like 150, 160 or something. Then this is cheap in comparison. But then again, if you compare a Tesla Model Y, this is again then half the price than this one. Yeah, so these are the price relations. Then as for the economy, consumption, real world range, We could score some 20 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers today, so that's a little bit more than 3 miles per kilowatt hour, with predominantly motorway 100-120 kilometers an hour, so like 60-70 miles per hour, and some city driving, so a realistic mix indeed. So it's not the most astonishing figure, but actually quite good considering also this size here, and definitely way better than it was with the Q8 e-tron, so to speak, the predecessor of this one. Means a real world range of around 460 kilometers or 290 miles.
So now let's take a look at the individual strengths and weaknesses. The BMW iX3 is the most efficient one in the test. It has a large battery and charges quickly. The interior has a futuristic, but form follows function form. It does make sense that the panoramic vision is further away in the focus while the infotainment is closer towards you. The BMW iX3 also offers the most comfortable seats when you pick the comfort seat form. The iX3 is also the most fun car to drive. The driving dynamics are extremely good. It will be interesting to test it as soon as possible, again with the adaptive suspension, since the base suspension is great for sporty driving, but somewhat rough in potholes. It is recommended to get it with the smallest wheels possible to secure driving comfort. The iX3 is also well priced within these premium vehicles together with the Volvo. The Mercedes GLC Electric, as they now call it, and not Mercedes GLC EQ anymore, has the most options and features of these four, like the rear axle steering, the air suspension, the super large interior screen, or the standard easy to open trunk. The GLC definitely has a screen interior focus. The riding comfort is the best if you have opted for the air suspension. The battery is smaller than in the iX3 and at the level of the Audi Q6 and the mid-size Volvo battery. Charging is also fine and efficiency improves in relation the faster you go, because Mercedes uses a 2-speed gearbox and the air suspension goes lower at higher speeds. The Mercedes GLC seems like the most elaborated pick to drive, but also the highest in price. The Volvo EX60 somehow mixes GLC and iX3. It offers the optional biggest battery in the lineup, and the cross-country version can also be bought with an air suspension. The so far adaptive suspension already does a good job. The interior is clean and more like Chinese competitors in the setup, reflecting the Geely ownership of Volvo. A very unique feature is the active noise cancellation, which makes the car on the one hand very silent, on the other hand it can feel artificial and you have to try it out before. Price-wise, the Volvo often has the best offers and also a lower list price than the competitors considering the battery sizes. The Audi Q6 e-tron also offers optional air suspension and similar specs like the competitors. The interior setup with the large black bezels and the user interface doesn't make everyone happy at this moment. The lane keeping assist is too aggressive and has to be deactivated for usual driving. Charging is also quick, and the sound deadening is on the clearly better level than the BMW iX3, for example. The Audi is the only car that lacks proper animal skin alternatives throughout also the higher trims. All four cars are very good EV SUVs for sure. Pick BMW iX3 and Volvo EX60 for the best price offers considering the battery size. Pick the BMW iX3 if you want to have the best driving fun. Pick the BMW iX3 for the most comfortable seats. Pick the Mercedes GLC Electric for the most comfortable suspension, the smoothest ride, the rear axle steering, and the sophistication in driving, braking, and interior quality, if you are willing to pay the extra price. Whereas no one could be declared as a clear loser in a way, because they're all good, we would decide between the BMW iX3 and the Mercedes GLC EQ at this moment, depending on the offer. If the price plays no role, it's the GLC EV for us, otherwise the BMW iX3 is a great price-performance pick. The Volvo EX60, I personally cannot stand the active noise cancellation so much because it's kinda extreme, so I would wait until you can deactivate it, which should be possible software-wise. BMW also does that in the iX5, for example. Otherwise, it's a great SUV as well, and the Audi Q6 e-tron is also a good SUV and especially offers optional air suspension and acoustic windows. But the driving behavior of that platform is somehow not my favorite, also together with the Porsche Macan Electric and the Porsche Cayenne Electric. And also then together with the lack of animal skin alternatives, we don't see enough reasons to go for it. However, if you get a good leasing deal, it still can be considered, of course. And now we also have to consider the bigger choice, the all-new BMW iX5. As you might know, we also think about ourselves which one to go for here next. And the BMW iX5 gets the luxury features that are missing with the BMW iX3, like seat ventilation, panoramic roof that opens, like seat ventilation that might come later for the iX3. The panoramic roof here in the iX5 opens also as well. Then the optional air suspension and the rear exit steering, just to name a few important ones. It is of course more expensive. However, since the Mercedes GLC electric is already also clearly more expensive than the iX3, depending on the offer and the leasing rate, GLC and iX5 can also be then kinda close in the pricing. So for us personally, the iX5 does play a major role in our considerations now. So now then we are deciding between iX3, GLC EQ, a little bit the Volvo EX60 still, with the offers and so on, we have to check it, and the iX5. Very interesting is that with the iX5, unlike with the Volvo EX60, you can here deactivate the active noise cancellation in the infotainment, although it is not extreme overall, so it's stronger in the EX60. And also to mention, the seats in the BMW iX5 are even a little bit more comfortable than in the iX3, if that's possible. There again, you have to go for the Veganza, then with the comfort pack, which also has the ventilation. And for the Veganza seats, these are the best picks. I would pick them in gray. So after driving the all-new BMW iX5, that one also went right to the top of our list now, next to the GLC electric, because the iX3, the ride for us was a little bit too rough. That's the biggest downside of that one. Otherwise, of course, pretty cool car. Also very interesting to take a look at the consumption data. So we have all the facts and figures, at least for 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour. There you see the BMW iX3 is the most efficient one. And together with the large battery size, you also get the highest mileage out of this vehicle. Very interesting for sure. Then the GLC EQ, the second most efficient one. Note that the faster you go, the closer it gets because of the 2-speed gearbox, and the air suspension lowers, so that then the range difference between iX3 and GLC will not be that large when you drive faster on the German Autobahn. With the Volvo, the thing is that you also have the larger battery possibly available, if that's available in your market yet, the P12, and then of course you can still get a great range out of that one. Least efficient at this moment with our tests so far was the Audi Q6 e-tron, and it was also astonishing that the BMW iX5 was very efficient in our first test as well. However, since it's a larger vehicle, it might not be that efficient when you drive a little bit faster. But then again, it has clearly the by far largest battery in this one with 141 kilowatt hours net. So then that overall, it could still be the range king here. Unless you go very, very, very fast on the motorway, maybe then there's still a difference. But we can also test that for you very, very soon. So now check out the extensive video on the BMW iX5 right now, and also tell us in the comments which one from these here would you go for and why.